Was there ever any doubt? Jake Moody, automatic. Though there was some doubt throughout the course of the day as to whether Michigan would be able to hold on against Illinois, the Wolverines did that to remain unbeaten. With that, welcome you inside the Monday Coaches Press Conference edition of Big Ten Live. I'm Rick Pizzo. Now, Michigan wasn't the only one that had some close calls throughout the course of the day. That was the case throughout the penultimate weekend of the regular season, not just inside the Big Ten, but throughout the conference. Of course, our focus is this conference, and over the course of the next 2.5 hours, you will hear from these men, many of whom were in tight battles over the weekend, including Jim Harbaugh, whose team was able to hold on against Illinois to remain unbeaten. Jeff Brohm and the Boilermakers had a tighter than expected game, still alive in their quest to get to the Big Ten championship game as the representative of the West. Jim Leonhard and Wisconsin, a last-second victory on the road against Nebraska. We'll hear from the interim head coach hoping to shed that label. PJ Fleck and the Gophers down to the wire against Iowa, though they came up a bit short. We'll also hear from Mel Tucker, Pat Fitzgerald, and Greg Schiano. Proof positive that it was a close week for more than just one team. Ohio State had to deal with Maryland and needed some big plays defensively and a second-half comeback to hold on and win against the Terps. Then Michigan had to do the same. We showed you the Jake Moody field goal that clinched it for the Wolverines, setting up the unbeaten in the game. All W's on that Michigan schedule that you see for the Wolverines. That means they are 11-0 heading into this weekend's matchup against 11-0 Ohio State. That game to be played in Columbus. Lots of questions heading into that game. What are the CFP implications? What is the status of Blake Corum? All that and more as we listen in. Here's Jim Harbaugh in Ann Arbor.
Keeping track of them. There's things we do in practice to prepare for them. We know Ohio State's our toughest competition. This will be our toughest test to date.
Their running game, even with a couple guys banged up, how key is that? Both ways to establish the running game in terms of the winner.
I think it'd be important. Stopping the run, being able to run the ball, always key factors in a football game.
Right here, David. Jim, with this being the first game in Columbus since 2018, what are you telling guys that haven't been in that environment of Ohio Stadium as they're preparing to go into that stadium, so to speak?
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'd be grateful for that experience.
On the left, Jimmy.
Jim, numbers say that they've improved as a run defense. When you watch them on film, what do you see there?
I see the defense is really good. 17 takeaways, 10 interceptions, six recovered fumbles, 16 forced fumbles, 3 defensive touchdowns. I think it's a very strong team defensively.
Jim, any update on Blake, Donovan, Luke?
No.
Any of the guys?
No update.
Jim, yesterday, as I'm sure you know, Blake Corum gave out a bunch of turkeys and milk. What does it say about him that he's doing that for a second time and probably doing a lot of other things when cameras aren't rolling?
He's amazing in all ways. He's larger than life personality, larger than life empathy. Everything he does, in quiet ways, in example ways, so many things that are tight. Why we're such a tight-knit football team.
Bob.
Jim, Ohio State made some changes in the offseason on defense and other things. Are they appreciably different in how they attack you, either offensively or defensively?
Yeah, they're. I think they're. A really good team, improved team. It's a tremendous team, and we're very grateful to be in this position to be playing in this game. Winner takes the East. winner takes all right there. So strong opponent, and it's the kind of situation that gives you the opportunity to display how strong our team is. There's no need to hate. Be grateful for the opponent. It's like superheroes. It's through a strong opponent that you get to find out who you are. They have a lot of players that are really good. They got great players. We got great players. They have great coaches. We have great coaches. They have players with Heisman habits. We have players with Heisman habits, and congratulations. Be grateful for having the opportunity to play in this kind of big game.
On the left player.
This series has been kind of cyclical, big domination by Michigan, Ohio State turns the tide, et cetera. What did last year's win do for you or the program?
It's where we're at. It's where we're at now. And like I just said, that's, those are my thoughts on it. It's just a real honor. It's a real honor to be in this position, to be able to test yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally. We know it's our toughest test of the year, and I think we're going to find that we're made of the right stuff.
On the right, Pat.
Jim, you said you were going to take about 6 hours Saturday before you got down to thinking about Ohio State. What time did you actually get down to it? Did you watch film right away, or what was the process for the rest of the weekend?
It was actually just a couple hours, actually, not even, because by the time I got home, I was watching the Ohio State-Maryland game, and already, so the mind switched over pretty quick.
On the left, Austin.
Jim, for a quarterback making his first start in this game, what do you tell JJ?
Have at it. It's pretty cool coming off of the game he had. Fourth quarter comeback, win in the last minute, game-winning drive. I mean, that doesn't happen to quarterbacks, that often, and to be in that situation, first time and win it. He's got it. Talk about turning water to wine. I think I made that comment back in the summer that he had that ability. See him, shouldn't have dropped the snap, but drops the snap, goes down on a knee, has a presence before he touched the ball to lift his knee off the ground, pick it up, get out of the pocket, pick up a critical first down. He's got it, and I'm so glad that he's on our team, and he's fiercely protective of the team. He's a tremendous teammate, but he's got that grit and determination too. That all into one package. He's a tremendous mix of Jim and Megan McCarthy. A mix of each.
On the right, Andrew.
First of all,
So that's what I tell him. I don't need to tell him anything more than that. Just go have at it.
First of all, how are you feeling? Down, maybe.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah.
And then you said this is the toughest test.
A little hoarse. I was still a little hoarse from Saturday. Did a lot of stuff.
With this being the toughest test of the season, as far as the 11 tests you've had to date,
Yeah.
is there anything you're still, I guess, unsure of or curious to see how your team will handle against the best opponent to date?
Oh yeah, I'm always searching to understand just exactly where we're at and where our opponent is, and been spending the better part of yesterday and today, doing that through watching on the tape too, but also I spent part of my morning talking to some of the parents on our team, and that was super enlightening. But as I said, I think you're going to find that we're made of the right stuff.
On the right, Mike.
After exploring the NFL and signing the contract, especially this offseason, how pleased are you that you're in this position? And in retrospect, maybe, I mean, did you think about this, you know, could be something that you may miss by going to, you know, the NFL again?
How I feel right now about the season? I can answer that question. You know, I don't want to write your whole article for you here, but how I feel is what I said. It's so pleased with this team. You know, I just want to congratulate them for putting them in the position. And it's just a tremendous honor to be able to go play against this kind of opponent, you know, with these kind of circumstances, in that kind of setting at Ohio Stadium, with the championship of the Big East, or of the East side of the Big Ten Conference at stake. To be tested, you know, that way is just something that it's an honor, and we're super excited about it.
Zach?
Jim, you mentioned the past couple weeks your players are on a happy mission. How important is that joy and gusto in a week like this where the pressure and the stakes are about as high as they can get?
Yeah, I'd even call them happy warriors. You know, it's, as I said, there's no need to hate, or anxiety or anger or anything that it's, you know, it's about being grateful for, and it is Thanksgiving week, you know, grateful for this opportunity, these circumstances, grateful to be tested against this opponent at this time.
Jim, you had some very complimentary things to say about your upcoming opponent. Coming out of the game last year in the media, there were a lot of comments that called into question their toughness. In reviewing Ohio State, do you see a tougher team?
I didn't. That wasn't me.
But coming out of Ann Arbor, there were some comments out there. Do you see a team that's tough?
Yes. I mean, absolutely. This is I think you got two teams that are, it's like two superheroes going at each other. And that's why that's what we're so excited about, being tested, find out, you know, what we're made of.
To the right, Angelique?
Jim, you've mentioned the right stuff a few times. What is the right stuff, and why are you sure you have it?
Got a great group of players who are happy warriors, and they're on a happy mission. And it's a tight-knit team that has paid the price. You know, they've taken on every challenge to this date, and they've attacked it. Been ready to play every single game for 60 minutes, and I love this team. I think they're made of the right stuff.
On the left, Clay?
Coach, there's always talk that goes back and forth between, you know, both sides. Ryan Day supposedly saying that you're going to hang 100. Your comment last year about being on third base, thinking you hit a triple. Is that good-hearted rivalry talk?
I guess. Kind of irrelevant is what I think. I think it's irrelevant. Yeah, yeah.
On the left, Michael?
Jim, with the experience that Fleck and Luke have, and to a lesser extent Donovan, would you feel comfortable playing them if they can't practice this week?
No, I mean their practices. If they can't practice, they can't play in the game.
Got time for a few more with Coach. Start with Larry.
With C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr., what in particular makes each of them tough to stop? Yeah, about that.
Yeah, they're. I talked about players that have Heisman habits. They have players that have Heisman habits. We have players that have Heisman habits. No question, C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. have Heisman habits. Tremendous players.
Middle camera.
Jim, you've obviously not only coached in this game, you've played in the game. What do you remember from the 1986 game, you know, going down there, winning in Columbus, and then what can you take from your experience as a player to maybe you know, share with JJ and the rest of the team, just having that experience as a player and not just a coach?
Yeah, really, at this point, the things I'll share with JJ is just go have at it, and that's what I'm gonna tell all our players. I mean, it's an honor. It's tremendous. Congratulations. Put yourselves in this position. You've paid the price. You've done the work. Not gonna let it rip. Have at it.
Back left, Aaron.
Jim, given what's at stake, potential return to the Big Ten championship playoff on the line, what's the message to the team trying to balance what's in front of you and what's on Saturday?
Yeah, do everything in our preparation to get ready for this game. It's all about this game. It's all about going 1-0 this week.
Last question, Bob.
Jim, 11-0 versus 11-0 doesn't happen very often. Is there any danger in it making it too big for your players, of being overwhelmed by the talk and everything that's at stake? Is that any danger at all?
Yeah, when you have 11-0, and both teams are 11-0, and I know our 11-0 really doesn't mean anything now. It's all about going 1-0.
All right. Thanks, guys. A couple players out here.
No official word from Jim Harbaugh on this man, Blake Corum, but let's give some kudos to the Michigan running back, using his NIL money to donate turkeys for the second straight year in Ypsilanti a few days ahead of Thanksgiving. Now, he was asked by some reporters on hand about his knee. He said, quote, "It's good. I'll be fine. I'll be back." What a terrific young man. What an outstanding football player. Michigan certainly could use him on Saturday in Columbus.
2nd down and 6. O'Connell to throw. Maybe. Gets it out of there. Caught. Jones. Touchdown. O'Connell to Jones one more time.
And how many times have we heard that this season? Aiden O'Connell to Charlie Jones. And how about the Boilermakers? Between last year and this, 11 Big Ten wins since the start of 2021, most in a 2-year stretch this century. Jeff Brohm and the Boilermakers also have an outside chance to represent the West and get to Indianapolis. Welcome back inside this coach's press conference edition of Big Ten Live. I'm Rick Pizzo. Before we hear from Jeff Brohm, here's the scenario. Purdue needs a little bit of help, but the help they need would occur on Friday. If Iowa beats Nebraska on Black Friday, the Hawkeyes are headed to Indianapolis for a second straight year. But should the Hawks lose, Purdue would know full well that heading into its old Oaken Bucket matchup with Indiana, a victory would send the Boilers to their first ever Big Ten championship game. Big reason why that's happened the last few weeks. On the road, knocking off Illinois to really open up the West, not just for Purdue, but for pretty much everybody. And then this past Saturday, closer than expected, but finding a way to beat Northwestern by 8. That means, again, a little bit of help from Nebraska Friday and a win Saturday. Jeff Brohm and the Boilers could be headed to Indianapolis. But the task at hand is the old Oaken Bucket. All that and more to be discussed as we listen in to Jeff Brohm from West Lafayette.
Well, I think we got a big week ahead of us, a rivalry game against IU. Not only do our players know the meaning of this rivalry, but obviously our fans do. So, it's at their place. And Indiana's coming off a big win at Michigan State. And we've got to have a good week of practice, like always, get better, continue to try to find a way to improve and eliminate mistakes, become more efficient, and try to finish this regular season as strong as we can. Indiana went with an athletic quarterback this past game and was able to run the football effectively. He was able to quarterback run the ball quite a bit as well and gave him a spark. So we definitely have to prepare for that, as well as the ability to put in other quarterbacks when they need to. So that'll be the challenge for us. Defensively, they have 10 senior starters. They know the scheme, they know the system, and they play a lot of close games. So we've got to make sure we're ready to go.
Jeff, what are you most proud of this team so far?
Well, I'm very proud of our team because they do work hard. They do everything they can to try to improve each and every week and find a way to win. Some weeks we find a way to look really, really good. Other weeks we find a way to just survive. But that's part of college football, and I think that they're able to take constructive criticism and find ways to improve and stick together. And I think they're a hungry group. So I'm proud of the effort they've given us, and I hope that continues throughout this next game.
What do you think Aiden O'Connell's legacy will be?
Well, I think Aiden has really gone above and beyond to prove his worth, and he started at the bottom and worked his all the way up to the top, and that's not easy to do. He took a lot of chances, a lot of risk to get where he's at. He's put in a lot of hard work. He's been a great teammate. He's never complained. He continues to do what he can to help the team win. And I just think that it's a great story that not many people will take that chance or that risk because the odds are stacked against you, and he did, and he achieved a lot of success with it. So very proud of him, and I think it comes from he's got a great family, he's well grounded, and he's a great example of a Purdue Boilermaker.
We talked a little bit after the game about the penalty on Jalen Graham. Have you ever seen it called before? What are your thoughts on the application of it? And did you talk to Jalen at all?
Well, while it was a subtle change in his gait and stride, it does state in the rule that if you change your gait or stride, they can throw a flag. Now, I don't think Jalen intentionally was trying to do that, but he did, and we got a penalty for it, and it hurt us without question, and we can't have it happen. So yes, we want to make sure that all of our players understand all the rules, that we can't have that happen. And have I seen more things happen that didn't get called? Yes, I have, but it was called, and we've got to deal with it and make better decisions.
Will we see Gus Hartwig the rest of the year? If not, who will snap the ball on Saturday in Bloomington?
No, unfortunately, Gus suffered a substantial injury. He'll be in a cast on his lower extremity for the next couple of weeks, and then he'll have surgery, and he'll be out for an extended period. So we appreciate all the great plays given us to this point and all the hard work, because he has played through a lot of other injuries as well. He was a leader of our offensive line, a great snapper, smart, tough, an in-state recruit that came and wanted to make a difference. And unfortunately, he got rolled up during the game and got injured. So, we'll get him back healthy, but it will take quite a bit of time. And what was the last question?
Will we start Spencer or Josh at center?
I think Josh will probably get the nod at center. He came in and played. He's our best snapper. He's just got to continue to improve and get better at the position. And then Spencer will back him up. And also Malachi, a true freshman who's been traveling with us to all the games, will be ready to go. So we'll have the ability to use any of those three.
Any update on Devin Mockabee?
Devin unfortunately got dinged early in the game, and he's going through the protocol you have to go through. So I don't know, what the status of him will be come game time, but we'll hopefully see later in the week.
You obviously feel good about Dylan and Kobe filling in if there's some reason Devin can't play.
Well, both those guys have played a lot of football, Dylan and Kobe, and they play hard, they work hard, different type of runners. So we got to make sure we call as many plays that we feel comfortable that they can have success with. But I think they'll work hard and they'll rise to the occasion and be ready to go for us.
With Jalen, did he play some linebacker for you on Saturday? Jalen Graham?
Well, that's what he plays for us.
No, I mean, he kind of moves around a lot, but I mean, he seemed to be in a different position.
You know what, you are correct. So Jalen is our hybrid outside linebacker nickel position. So with him, we can use him against regular run sets and spread sets and not have to bring in a bigger body to play linebacker to stop the run. Now, with that said, not to give away what we're doing, but you noticed it, he has moved around, and on certain calls, I don't want to give everything away, on certain calls, he'll move to a spot whether we think it's pass or run. So he has done that a few times. You are correct.
Right. He seemed to be in the middle of the linebackers.
Well,
quite a
like
few
I said,
times.
there are certain calls, because the one he picked off, he was in the middle. So, not to give it away, but he, if we anticipate what we think is being called, we will move him around slightly to better suit the call.
Did Kieran come out of Saturday's game okay, and would he be available for this week?
You know what? He played, really didn't want to come out. He's injured. Not many people would play with what he has. He came out as good as you can come out. Yes, he's very, very sore, and we'll get him as healthy as we can come game time. And but I'm going to assume he's going to go unless something comes up without a lot of practice.
Just how did the linebacker group hold up on Saturday?
Well, you know what? Kieran actually had tackles and had productivity, and O.C. Brothers continues to get better. That's been good to see. Jacob Wahlberg got in there. We want to see him continue to improve and be a guy we can count on for the future. Samizi got in some snaps, and once again, when he's in the right spot at the right time, he can hit and tackle. So we need him to finish the season strong for us.
5 years in this rivalry, what have you learned about this in-state battle?
Well, I think it's always a really good football game, and a lot of players on our team are from in-state. Maybe not as many from Indiana, but there are some. So a lot of guys know each other, and anytime you get to play against your buddies and people that you grew up with or played with or against, makes it more meaningful. And of course, our fans are a big part of this, and you always want to go out on a good note with a win. But in these type of games, doesn't matter what your record is, anybody can win a football game. I know, the game we lost a couple years ago, they had a really, really good, talented team. They were playing well. We were not playing so well, and it took them 3 overtimes to beat us. So, and that was at our stadium. So now we got to go to their stadium, and they're coming off a big win where they've made some adjustments and changes, and it sparked them to a win. And I'm sure they'll have a few other things up their sleeves and be ready to go. So, if we don't match that preparation intensity, then we'll be the ones leaving with a frown on our face.
Josh Kaltenberger kind of recount his recruiting story, how you got him here, and did you always earmark him as a center type of player for you?
Well, Josh is from Pennsylvania and came to our camp, he's looks the part. He's got really good size. Actually, he's strong in the weight room. He's a great young man. Comes from a good family. What you weren't sure of was, maybe how great of an athlete is he going to be, and the potential that he has. But he's smart. He can really snap the football effectively, which is very important. We want to continue to see him get better at playing fast, making calls, reacting to movement up front. That's where some things can happen where he needs to continue to improve at. But he stepped in a critical situation and did an admirable job. And I think that he'll continue to improve. And he knows we need him, and he's got to get it done for us. So I think he'll take pride in that. And he's been a great teammate, and he fits in well.
Earlier in the year, you struggled dealing with running quarterbacks. I think Florida Atlantic comes to mind, Syracuse a little bit, but where has your defense maybe improved in that area as you face a big challenge on Saturday?
Well, I thought we made improvements the last 2 weeks without question on defense. We've made some adjustments. I think they've all been beneficial. This past week, we knew they had a Wildcat package ready, and I think other than one time where they did it in a slightly different personnel, we had a call ready, and we shut it down. I do think we're better equipped and prepared for it. If you watch Indiana's last game, they had some runs for their quarterback and some reads in certain sets, and it was effective. Then it started to get a little stale. Then they started to spread the field more and do it in a different way, and they hit in a couple other big runs. So they've got multiple ways to run the quarterback, and when you have that type of athlete in the game, and you complete 2 passes during the game and you beat Michigan State, you're obviously doing a lot of things correctly. So we've got to have a wide variety of calls ready against the different personnel sets they have when it's a tighter box with a lot of blockers and when it's a wider set with a lot of more space, because they had the ability to change and it was effective for them. And that's going to be the challenge for us, is making sure we have a good plan for all those different scenarios, because I do think we've made strides on the subtle ways we've seen it, but they have taken it to hey, this is the full ball game. We've got a running quarterback in there, and you've got to defend it, and that's not easy to do. So we've got to really prepare hard and make sure we have a plan for that, and then have a plan if they want to pass or if they put a passing quarterback in as well.
Will Branson Dean be available this week?
More than likely not, but we'll see as the week goes on.
If you don't play in the Big Ten championship game, what does next week look like for you? Is it recruiting? Does that start for you and your staff, or kind of what happens next week?
Well, they've changed the rules in recruiting, and in my opinion, they change it for the Ohio States of the world and those, so it fits their plan better. But they've changed the recruiting to where now you cannot go on the road right away. You have to wait till the Friday after their last regular season game. So for us, that's when we'll first start hit the road and get out and recruit.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned Malachi earlier. Just what have you seen from him, as a true freshman offensive lineman, to work his way to a point to where you feel comfortable putting him out there if his name needs to be called?
Well, Malachi has traveled with us with every game, home and away. I think he's a good athlete. He's like every true freshman coming in. He's been disappointed he hadn't played, so he's had to adjust to that. But his time is going to come, and it could be this week. It could be whenever. So he has to make sure he's ready to go. So I think he's bright-eyed. He likes football. He likes to compete. He's got some toughness. We just got to continue to, put him in as much live action as we can to get him ready to go, so that he's used to the speed of the game once we get to it.
And then when it comes to preparing for Indiana, they have good special teams pieces. They have a dynamic returner who's returned to kickoffs for touchdowns this season, had one last week against Michigan State, a punter that can flip the field when maybe their offense isn't clicking. How do you go into this week, I guess, kind of preparing for that and making sure that aspect of the game isn't something that, is a key factor for them in that game?
Well, we've definitely got to prepare hard for that. They've done a really good job on special teams. They've gotten big plays. We've got to continue to improve. I thought we got better in certain elements this past week, even though we had the one punt blocked. Some other areas we got better at covering and getting down the field and using our speed and athleticism. So this week will be critical that we don't allow the big plays. We find a way to gain an edge like always. Defensively, they give you a lot of different looks, bring guys from all over, play a lot of different coverages, combo coverages, try to force you into making mistakes. So we've got to be sharp and it's always important to play good team football in all three segments. And, in this league, if all three aren't doing their part, you're not going to win.
Are you going to watch the Nebraska at Iowa game?
I'm not even sure. I know it's Friday. I don't know what time the game is. I'm sure as we're traveling, it'll pop on people's phone and things like that. But as you know, we've got a big one ahead of us in a rivalry game that means a lot. So we've got to just focus on that.
It seems like you've been getting Nick Carraway on the field a little bit more here later in the season. What have you seen from him? It seems like he's got a chance to be pretty good.
We really, really like Nick. He's done a great job for a true freshman. We're trying to get him on the field as much as we can, without question. As this week and even beyond, he'll continue to get more action, and then I think he could be a phenomenal player. A difference maker, a guy that has a bright future, a guy that can. Right now he loves to compete. He loves football. He loves to hit. at the end of the game, he's putting himself on special teams, going up to our coach and making sure that he's not coming off, or making sure that he wants to go on and someone else come off because he's ready to go hit somebody. So he just plays with great effort, and he has great talent as well, and he works really hard. So I think he's got a chance to be, an outstanding player for us.
Sidnor's done some really positive things this year, too. Do you look at those two guys as kind of a nice little building block here for your future defensive lines?
Well, I think that we've made strides on the defensive line. We've developed depth. We've got more bodies. We've taken more recruits and commits at that position. We've committed to it, and we will always try to do that, but we've definitely made strides there. And a lot of guys have played football, so their experience level has gone up. We're able to rotate guys in, and Corday has definitely stood out and done a really good job. So I feel good that, as we analyze our roster at the end of the year, that's a position that doesn't need as much immediate help at all. And there's some other positions that we feel like we'll probably have to, make sure we address. But the defensive line has developed a good nucleus of quite a few guys, and even though we've had injuries, we've been able to sustain, pretty productive play at that spot.
Among the freshmen this year who didn't play, any of those guys stand out during the redshirt years as guys you're especially enthusiastic about kind of moving forward long term?
Well, if you mentioned some names, I'm trying to think. Right now, I think Joe Strickland has made a lot of strides and will be a good player for us. He just got sick with mono that wiped him out quite a bit and dropped a lot of weight. Brady Allen continues to improve as a good young prospect. Max Claret tight end, I think, has a chance to do a really good job for us. Zion Steptoe has made strides at receiver as well. I'm trying to think, and there's probably more. But we spend quite a bit of time with them on Sunday, getting them a little bit extra work. A lot of those guys, go on the service team and go against our ones in practice. So, they got a chance to work against our best unit, and so it's important that we continue to develop them. Those are probably the main leaders, and there's probably a few others that are getting better that I left out. But I think we got a good crew that's just got to work hard throughout the remainder of the season, and then make sure they really utilize spring ball to get better.
Any other questions for Coach? All right,
Thank you.
Coach.
Really pretty impressive that Purdue is in this situation. 6-2 in the last 8 games, and doing so with a ton of injuries. Jeff Brohm announced veteran offensive lineman Gus Hartwig is done, and running back Devin Mockabee, who has really come on as of late, he's questionable. Brohm saying not sure if he'll be available on Saturday in concussion protocol after being dinged up against Northwestern. Could really use Mockabee for the running attack, for time of possession perhaps, against an Indiana team that, you heard Jeff Brohm mention it, completed 2 passes and found a way to go on the road and beat Michigan State. Huge second half comeback, winning 39-31 in double overtime. Forced a ton of turnovers in the second half, and there you see the final play that gave Indiana the win, snapping that long losing streak. 7 games dating all the way back to week 3 since Indiana had tasted victory, and now a little bit of momentum as they return home to Bloomington to host Purdue with the old Oaken bucket up for grabs. Here's the head Hoosier, Tom Allen.
I appreciate y'all being here. Just want to start by just saying how proud I am of our players once again. Just going back and had a chance to watch the film and grade it all, and just the fight and just the toughness and the grit to be able to stay the course, even though we got behind. And even in the second half when they scored and we were down by 17 again, and our guys just kept battling. So just a testament to their character, and they're just staying together. And tough physical conditions with the weather, and very tough football team that I respect for them and how hard their kids play and the talent that they have. So just really want to kind of mention a few guys. We had some players of the game that we want to recognize. Offensively, Sean Shivers and Luke Haggard. Thought Luke played his best game since he's been here. Sean obviously had a big run for us, but just the whole offense not turning the ball over. Dexter Williams just protecting the football, running the football well. You know, obviously Sean went over 100 yards, Dexter went over 100 yards and ran for about 260. Offensive line play was huge, and just a testament to those guys and Coach Bell and what he did with our staff there to get those guys ready. And then defensively, recognized 4 guys as players of the game. Fitzy playing his first game at linebacker, 14 tackles, tackle for loss, unbelievable. Tied T. Gray Scales for that, which is just amazing because there's lack of practice reps at that position. Really has been minimal, and just playing football, eyes right, great tackler. Just really impressed with him. John Haynes thought he played his best game since he's been here. James Head, he blocked the field goal there in overtime, and then Monster just played tough and physical, and just really proud of him and the way he led our secondary because by moving Fitzy to linebacker, really needed him to step up verbally in the back end to be able to run things. And so those 4 guys were our players of the game on defense. And then Jalen Lucas and Noah Pierre, to the 2 special teams players of the game. I mean, what can you say about Jalen? You know, the only player in the country to have 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns this season. And the whole unit, we call that unit the house call unit, and those guys all did a great job. And Noah Pierre, just phenomenal play on special teams. Cover, caused a fumble. We didn't get it, but we caused a fumble on one of our punts. And kickoff coverage is phenomenal. And I'll also say this, Sean Shivers covered 6 kicks. Matter of fact, he covered the very kick after he ran him. We actually took him out, and he said, no, I'm not coming out. And he wanted to stay on that. You just knew how important these guys buy in. Also, Aaron Casey, just this whole week, missed really much the whole week with an injury, didn't get to practice hardly at all, and but played his tail off. So just a lot of guys. Cam Jones right now is a tremendous leader on the sideline, locker room. Didn't play in the game, but, man, just huge value to our team. And I could go on and on and on about the guys. So just really proud of them. And the scouts of the week as well in their preparation. Wish they could have been in the locker room with us. We actually did some pictures here afterwards with those guys so they could be a part of it with this platoon. But Max Williams and Brady Simmons, offensive scouts of the week. And then we had Mitchell Evans, Liam Zacchiel, and Drew Pierce, defensive scouts of the week. And then special team scouts, Will Johnson and Liam Zacchiel. So guys continue to just give us tremendous effort. And I've said this, our teams continue to practice hard. Didn't always show up on game day. Finally did. Their perseverance and toughness and fight showed up. We had 3 4th-down stops by our defense. Those don't count as takeaways, but they really are. And just huge momentum shifters. Just the one takeaway gave us 3 points, which was the difference in the game. So total team effort, total team win. Just proud of our guys and just staying together and continue to fight. Obviously, this week is a tremendous challenge and opportunity to play the Boilermakers here at home for the Old Oaken Bucket. Just unbelievable passion for this game from our fan base and from our team and our players. And know that Purdue's a really good football team. A lot of respect for Coach Brohm and what he's doing there and how their team plays. And so they've got a lot of talented football players in all 3 phases and really have to come together and play our best football one last time here at home. So got a great group of seniors that I love and respect. A lot of guys here played a lot of football for us and want to send them out the right way. So I'm going to have to earn this one, just like you always do. But appreciate the effort this past weekend. That one's in the past now. Build off of that, take that momentum into this week, and got to have our best week of preparation and have to play our best game collectively on Saturday. Questions?
Tom, this will be, this senior group in particular is kind of your first group in a way. It's a lot of guys that signed after you got the job or were part of your first recruiting class, guys obviously like Bryant or Devon that have stuck around. Cam, I know hasn't been playing, but have stuck around kind of basically the maximum time. I mean, just what is Saturday going to be like for you? And with the small number of guys like Taiwan that in theory could have another year, when do you kind of initiate the conversation for them? Because I imagine at the same time guys will want to look at the NFL or maybe just to feel like they play a lot of football.
Yeah, so first of all, just the senior class, yeah, it's a special group. Like you said, there's some 6-year guys in there that have been here a long, long time. Came in with the first class that was here that we recruited that whole year. Just all the effort they've given us. They've been a part of the breakthrough in 19 and 20, and they persevered through a tough year last year, and then this year's been challenging as well. And so, a special group of guys that I have a lot of respect for, tremendous love for, and it's going to be an emotional day, to be honest. But at the same time, we work together, fight together, cry together, laugh together, and I want us to have one awesome finish to this group of guys' time together here at Memorial Stadium. So couldn't have a better opportunity than to play in your rival game at home with a group of seniors that have come here to create change and have been a part of that change and want to finish off the right way, and the chance to win both of our trophy games would be huge. So a lot of emotion there. And then the guys, like you mentioned, that have to make decisions, we'll kind of do it like we usually do. They'll have a chance to hear from the NFL scouts and how they view them, get their evaluation from them, and then we'll sit down with their families and talk that decision through. A little bit different this year. The NCAA has given us, it's actually a dead week. Usually we would be out recruiting the Sunday morning right after we play the game on Saturday, and now that week is dead. And for the purpose of being able to be with you guys, so we'll meet with all the players, so it won't be as urgent as far as meeting with them right away that first thing in the morning. So, but like we did last year, but at the same time, it'll all happen that next week and have a chance to sit down with families and talk it through. So, but like I said, don't have the same number of guys in that situation, but do have a few. And so we always just want to make sure they know. We want to help them to make the best decision for themselves and make sure they have all the information that they need. And then they, as a family, have to make that call, and then we'll support them either way.
During the 7-game losing streak, you guys were in 4 of those games, either leading, tied, or trailing by 7 or fewer heading into the fourth quarter. Same situation this week, this past week. How important was it for them to just get the win, to change the attitude in the building for this coming week?
Oh, yeah. I think you can't even state how critical that was and how big it is for us. Because you keep talking about it. You've asked me fair questions about how do you turn it? How do you get a different result? And I think the answer is you stay the course, and you continue to look for ways to find, different ways of doing things, which we've done, and to get a different result. But you got to experience it. You can sit here and talk about it. You got to finally, make those plays, because it comes down to it. You got to make critical plays in those moments at the end. And we went through today and just highlighted those critical plays, whether it's special teams. If you talk about the Jalen Lucas kickoff return, they had just taken the lead. Again, that was kind of we just shouldn't have given up that run the way we did anyway. So it happened, and then what are you going to do? And so that unit made a game-changing play, and then we had some key fourth-down stops, and offense takes the ball and goes down and scores, and Sean Shivers pops that long run. So just all those things combined, it was guys making plays in those moments. You can talk about overtime, the emotions of that, and then coming down and getting that touchdown, and then getting a 2-point conversion was massive for the psyche of our defense taking the field and just knowing, hey, we just gotta get one more stop. And it comes down to fourth down, and then Noah makes a great play in the end zone. So just players in those moments rising up and making critical plays, whether it's on offense, defense, or special teams. And even you take for granted the field goal, the 40-yard field goal that Charles Campbell kicks, after we get the takeaway, that ends up being a game changer. You don't go to overtime if you don't have that field goal. So every phase of the game came together, and that's how you got to win those close games. And we've unfortunately, had our fair share of frustrations not finishing games out this season, and to be that close is just, kind of sickening, because you got a good football team that just needs to, keep fighting together, get a few more guys back and each week and try to get one more guy have a chance to make a play that provides a difference in the game. So fortunately, we were able to do that. We feel very blessed, and man, it's a great feeling to be able to know that these guys stuck together. Because you know what, in that environment, on the road, the weather the way it was, being down by the way we were at halftime, and then even in the middle of the fourth or third quarter, man, what character and resilience that these guys showed. So really proud of them.
On the transfer portal and college football, quote-unquote, free agency has changed everything so much that really your conversations next week are with your roster top to bottom and such. How much does it help, considering how tough these last couple of months have been, for all those guys to enjoy the euphoria of that win on the field and in the locker room and on the flight home and that, just to have a good taste back in their mouth after a rough couple of months?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know that you can put a value on it that would, justifiably explain it. I think that, yeah, we are in a different era. You know, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. Never thought it would ever become this, you know, when you first start coaching, and probably even 5 or 6 years ago, never even thought about anything like this. And so everything you do is just really trying to find a way to make sure the guys that are on your team understand their role, their value, how we see them developing for their future. And you got to be constantly selling that. I mean, you didn't even think about some of those things in regards to, yeah, you did it as a built-in part of what you do, but to have the conversations with guys to try and keep them. You know, before you're always meeting with them to try and map out the next step for them. Hey, what's the next few months going to look like when we come back after the season's over? Now you're having conversations about convincing them to stay, and sometimes it may even be pretty blunt conversations, but at the same time, that can't just happen right then. There's been a lot of things that have built up to this, and you know it's been a hard season, and guys get frustrated, and everybody wants to win, and I want to win as much as anybody. And so, but you just stay true to who you are, and you want guys that want to be here, you know, and now they have an opportunity to move around more than ever before. And so I still want to, doesn't change. You want to keep the right guys here, you know, and I want guys, like I said, that have the passion for this program and have the belief that we can, you know, do special things here together. But yeah, you got to be proactive with it. I mean, we talk about it all the time as a staff, you know, and it doesn't make you, I don't want it to make us hold guys less accountable. I don't want to ever change that. But you also got to make sure that they don't assume anything. They need to know how you feel about them. They need to know the plan for them. They need to know exactly how you see them being a part of our future, because I think that's kind of what they want. That's what they want to be, and their families want to know that as well. So, yeah, it's definitely added a whole new dimension to everything that we do. And so now you used to think, hey, when the season finishes, you go out and recruit your class. So now season ends, you do that, and you have to recruit your own, which is a whole new, and it's never going to change. It'll be this way from, you know, now moving forward.
Coach, with how the season has gone and getting this unbelievable emotional win this past week, you go into probably the most emotional game of the season. How important is it to get a win at the end of the season to carry that momentum forward versus having that loss and having that taste in your mouth for afterwards?
Yeah, and I think, you know, you got to continue, as we said today to our players, and I said, man, this is the biggest game of the season. Why? Because it's the next one. I get it. We understand we're playing for a trophy, and a trophy that means a whole lot to this university. So, but yeah, every year this game has tremendous value, and the stakes are very, very high. I think it's elevated because of, you know, the kind of season we've had, and for us to be able to continue the momentum that we were able to generate last week, and have one of the greatest comebacks that we've ever had in our program in a long time. You know, first time winning, you know, in back-to-back games in East Lansing in 53 years. You know, that's history that doesn't happen very often. We got a chance to be a team that has, you know, not many teams have won both of those in the same year. It's happened only 5 times in the history of our program, you know, to win both the Brass Spittoon and the Oaken Bucket in the same year. So last time it happened here was 2016. So I did not get a chance to play for the Bucket in 2020. So, but the bottom line is that tremendously important game, but you know what? They all are, but it is not just the next game. Okay, it does have tremendous value. There's a lot of things that go into this, and our guys are going to understand that as this week plays itself out. We want them to understand the history of the Bucket, and they want to know exactly, you know, what it means, where it came from, why we have a Bucket, and because we got 40 new guys on our team that weren't here last year, and we have a new coach on our team, so we're going to make sure. And Coach Deal, who's our staff historian, he'll do a great job. We started that process this morning, and we'll have another one tomorrow, and then on Wednesday, and on Thursday, and then on Friday. So, but yeah, this is a great opportunity for our program, and we want to make sure that we send these seniors out the right way in their last home game at Memorial Stadium.
Tom, over here. When you talk about the culture of the program, and when you see what Aaron Casey did, what Brian Fitzgerald did, how much does that reflect the culture of the program, what you're trying to get them to buy in? And obviously it also reflects their own character.
Yeah, I think that it's a direct reflection of their character, and I think that's probably the best way to start, because that's where it all starts, is the individual character of your players, and then that has to transcend into their buy-in to your program, and them wanting to do whatever they got to do to find a way to get on that field. And when they get on that field, find whatever they got to do to make a play, to help this team be successful. And then, like I said, even a guy like Sean Shivers, who has just only been here for a year. I mean, that guy refused to be taken out of the game after he just ran almost 80 yards for a touchdown to go cover a kick, and covered 6 kicks because he wanted to. And I could go on about the unselfishness of these guys, you know, and sometimes guys get late in the year and the year hasn't gone the way you want it to go, and you start thinking about your future, and you know, I don't know, you know, Cam Jones is busting his tail to play on Saturday, and we still don't know yet if he's going to play. He was out there today trying to work through it, but I'm telling you, that's not normal. Okay, I've been doing this a long, long time, and that's special. And we got a locker room full of these guys that care a whole lot about this program and this university and those who they represent, and they love this team, and they're living out LEO, and that's where the culture piece comes in. I mean, you can talk about it all you want, but it's I don't care how much, you know, movement you have as the portal creates it and all the different things with NIL. It still comes down to guys on your team that care more about the guys around them than they care about themselves. And that's getting harder and harder to build that, and I get it for a lot of different reasons. But to me, it's still what makes a team special, especially in the sport of football. It takes so many people to make Jalen Lucas have a chance to go, you know, 88 yards for a touchdown on a kickoff return. Those other 10 guys on the field got to do their job. Every single one of them. One guy doesn't do his job, and it doesn't happen. And so it's a great, great sport that we play in football. And then the culture is huge. The locker room is huge. And I know it gets tested, and it absolutely does. And but when you have strong leaders, you're able to withstand the tests that come and the storms that come, because it doesn't say if they come, it's when they come in this life. And that's why this is such a great teacher of that. So really proud. Even a guy like A.J. Barner, who's battled injuries this whole year. I mean, he makes 2 huge catches. You know, it was hard for us throwing the football and everything with the weather, and just wasn't, you know, but we were running the football well. But anyways, he comes to the end and makes 2 massive plays. He's had a tough year because he's just never really been, you know, super healthy, and I'm just so proud of him. He's one of our leaders, and like I said, there's many guys that I could say about that. You know, I got Zach Carpenter, who's, you know, broke his thumb, or not, had issues with his thumb, and then now he's got snap with his left hand. You know, I mean, I've never coached a guy that's been able to do that, you know, and in those conditions and have good snaps, you know. So just on and on, guys just exhibiting character and toughness, and it's, like you said, it starts with themselves individually, and then it just spills over into the team.
Coach, because of the weirdness of the last few years, you haven't hosted Purdue since 2018, I guess it is.
Yeah.
What? I'm sure you've been asked this in the past, but because it's a weekend when the students aren't here, do you have a preference on maybe, you know, with Big Ten scheduling changes,
Well, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I just want to have the best crowd we can, you know, and I hate it that they don't get to have a chance to do that. So, you know, I don't have any say-so whatsoever in the scheduling. But, yeah, I mean, to me, you just want your rival game to be a game where everybody's here. You know, all the students are here and everybody in full force. So, yeah, that would be – I'm all in for that. There's no doubt about it, you know. So you want you know, I've been other places where you have rivalry games, and they've often fallen this weekend, and so you got to try and find ways, you know, different days we play on. We played at Thanksgiving Day when I was at Ole Miss. We played on Friday night when I was at South Florida against Central Florida, so that was a big game. And so just, you know, the place you've been, we played, you know, I tell you what, you always go back to, you think about rivalry games, the Monon Bell game between DePaul and Wabash is intense and as awesome and as great as it gets, you know. But so just those games always being played this time of year. So I guess it's always going to have an issue with the calendar maybe. But yeah, I just think when I think of those games, I think of the crowds, the atmosphere, and just the intensity of it just goes to another level. So you'd love to see it to be there, but it can be there that wants to be there.
I guess it feels like we've asked you a lot about just kind of your team. What are your impressions of Purdue in particular? I think they're pretty banged up. They've got some guys who are confirmed out for the season, a couple guys like Maccabee who may play, may not play. Just what are your kind of early sort of thoughts on Purdue?
Well, they got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So when you have that, you got a chance to be really, really good. So I think their defense has gotten better. I think their O-line's better. They do run the football way more effectively than they've ran it recently. They got receivers got 93 catches over 1,000 yards. He's impressive. Really good tight end. Their defense plays hard, and their special teams has been effective. So, I think we're all beat up this time of year. I don't think anybody's got a full roster of guys, and so it's probably relative to this point. So whoever's available, whoever's healthy, is going to go out there, and Coach Brohm does a great job. Their kids play really, really hard, and they're always well prepared, and they got a lot of talent. So, really good football team, and they got a chance, based on how things play out, to still be in the mix to win the West. So that's just a testament to their season and the way they've done things there. So obviously, a lot of respect for them. A lot of good football players on that team, and we got to fight and claw and scratch to try and find a way to win this very, very important Old Oak and Bucket game. Awesome. Have a great day. LEO.
Interesting discussion there from Tom Allen about a potential schedule change for the Bucket game. According to Allen, quote, "I just want the best crowd we can have." Of course, students not in session this weekend. "I want everybody there. I would definitely be in favor of that." Been such an up and down year for Michigan State. 2 wins to start the year, and then that loss on the road at Washington sent Michigan State into a little bit of a tailspin with 4 straight losses. Seemed to right the ship with that double overtime win against Wisconsin, and especially on the road against Illinois. But then this past Saturday, giving up a 17-point second-half lead to lose to Indiana in double overtime. That means you count up the W's. There are 5 of them on that screen. Mel Tucker and company needing to beat Penn State this week to become bowl eligible. Here is the head Spartan talking not just football, but other sports as well.
Oh, I love baseball. Yeah, I do. I just don't follow it like I used to. I did play when I was younger. I played. My dad was my coach. He's my first coach. Yeah. My dad played baseball at Toledo. Yeah, so I was raised as a baseball player. But anyway, thanks everyone for being here today. Really appreciate you coming out. Obviously, we have a lot to play for this week. We have a trophy game versus Penn State. Opportunity to play a top 10 team on the road in a very hostile environment, which we know what that is there. And obviously, it's the next game, and it's the last regular season game, guaranteed opportunity for us, so it's huge. Last week's game, Saturday, was obviously a disappointment for all of us. We didn't play complimentary football for 60 minutes. We didn't finish. So we got back together today, reviewed the film, made the corrections, and we've turned the page and moved on. Our team knows how to have intentional focus and how to move on and how to improve and how to get better and how to own things. And so, that's what we're doing. Attitude was really, really good today, really focused. Just came off the field not too long ago. The meetings this morning were very good. And so, it's a new day for us. So in terms of attitude and focus, it's arrow up. We just have to do the required and unrequired work the rest of this week to prepare for the opportunity to play our best 60. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
I know you said new day for you guys, and obviously you talk consistently about maintaining the same preparation, but as knowing this could be the last week of practice until the spring, and if you don't get the result you wanted, do you think there's any more sense of urgency from your guys at all?
Yeah, man, I believe there's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency on the staff and also with the players. We always ask our players, and we'll always ask the staff to raise the level of intensity every day, and that's happening.
What have you seen? Penn State's had an interesting season where they've had some ups and downs too. I'm wondering, when you look at them, what you see and sort of in terms of the matchup, a team that where you think your strengths might lie and what you see from them.
Yeah, well, they've continued to improve as the season's gone on, and that's what well-coached teams do. James does a great job. I'm not sure I think he's in his 9th season there, and obviously he has a great program. And defensively, they settle down. They understand what Matty wants them to do and how they want them to do it, so they're playing faster. They're fitting to run better. and they're having fun. They're playing complimentary football. They got a lot of really good players. They recruit very well, and so it's just a team that's continue to chop throughout the season and get better. That's what I see. And so, how do we match up? We'll see on Saturday. We'll see.
I was wondering about, you guys have struggled against the run recently, including last week, and then just with them, they have a pretty good run game. And what you see from them with the two freshman running backs that are both over 700, I think?
Yeah, they have a really good run game. So that's a huge emphasis, for us this week. Our run defense has struggled, and it's been progressively not up to par, as we go on. So there's things that we're going to have to do this week to try to rectify the situation in terms of how we practice, the looks that we get from our scout team, and then reteaching gap control, run fits, run keys with the D-line, linebackers, and also the secondary, which is going to be a challenge for us, but something that we have to do. We have to go back and reteach, everything to be able to fit the runs that we need to fit, and so that we can be consistent fitting the runs. One of the challenges that we've had is that we don't hit. The only day that we have contact is that we hit with passes on game day, and it's been like that for the last 3 weeks because we don't have enough guys to practice, and we don't have enough healthy bodies, and so we're just trying to get guys to the game so that we have enough guys to be able to play in the game, and so it shows up. That lack of contact and full speed contact and hitting shows up mostly in the run game, as opposed to obviously the passing game. And so, we're coming up with some ways to try to mitigate those circumstances and really, get back to being able to play the type of run defense that we need to play. So that's going to be our challenge. That's going to be our challenge this week. We have plenty of toughness. We have enough players to get it done. But we're going to have to adjust some of the ways we go about preparing the guys, still without contact, because we certainly can't afford to do that. But there's other things that we brainstorm that we feel like we can do to help ourselves, and so that's going to be a point of emphasis. And Penn State also has a very potent pass game as well. They can throw the ball, so those are all challenges, and that's what the preparation is for. So that's why we have to have intentional focus. We got to block out the noise. We don't have time to be distracted about anything.
Two questions for you, Mel. First, you mentioned about the not having enough bodies. Do you have any update on the 8 players' availability this week?
I don't have any updates.
And secondly, I noticed when you did your intro, you didn't mention the word bowl or bowl eligibility. Is that intentional, and why?
Well, I think we all know what's at stake, and the players know that as well. So I don't think there's any reason to continue to to harp on that, because that's really talking about the end result. What we really need to focus on as a program, as with players and coaches, is what we need to do, every single day to prepare for that opportunity. And so I basically, when I'm talking to you about those, it basically is how I'm talking to the team. So because that's the mindset that we have. We have to be very intentional with words we use in the messaging. What the players hear from me and hear from our staff. Semantic responsibility is important, and what comes out of my mouth and how I say it and why I say it it matters. And so our focus is on the process. We all know what's at stake in terms of bowl eligibility. I mean, that almost goes without saying.
You mentioned how the players are learning how to own some things, or you guys are starting to own some things. So what specifically is that? I know a lot did not go your way Saturday. So how do you hope that, you know, results in a better outcome for Saturday?
Yeah, so you know, evaluation of performance. It's either going to be it's either going to be good enough or it's not. You know, if it's good enough, you own that. I did a good job and understand why, and then move on. If it wasn't good enough, if it was not up to the standard, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, whether it's a unit, a side of the ball, or it's an individual player, it's not up to the standard, then you have to own that as well. Okay, evaluate it. Okay, you know, now it was not good enough. There's no excuse. There's no explanation. What do we need to do to fix it? You know, fix it, and then move on to the next thing. And so, that's ownership. That's not making excuses. You know, giving a reason why, you know, it didn't get done. You know, obviously, you know, like there's cause and effect, and so there's reasons why we get a certain outcome, and so obviously we have to understand those things, but we don't have to accept. Accept that as, you know, it's like unacceptable. So how do we fix it? So we understand it. We know why things happen. That's why we watch the film, and then we correct it. You know, so. And I do understand why certain things happen on the field. I still don't accept it. I do understand why certain things, you know, take place. And so, you know, that takes a level of maturity to be able to do that. And our team, you know, I'm confident that, you know, that to a player, we'll do that. It's easier to be accountable and take ownership when things are going well, but when the finger is possibly being pointed at you, you know, individually, that's what it makes it more difficult to not, you know, to take ownership and not pass the buck. So, but I'm really proud of our guys, you know, for the most part, you know, we've been accountable for and taking responsibility and own the things that we've done or didn't do, and we've been able to move forward.
No, you mentioned the fact that you haven't had enough healthy bodies for a few weeks now in practice. Relative to the guys that have been suspended and are missing, I know you don't have an update, but are you frustrated that there's been no resolution to this point? Did you expect by now to at least have some idea of where you could go with those guys?
Again, I don't have any new information, and so I don't, you know, the expectation is, for me, is when I get more information, then we can regroup. You know, that's the only expectation that I have, and so you know, that's what it is.
Mel, when you look at the special teams breakdowns at this point of the season, do you think of doing things differently, doing them with different people, or just doing them better with the guys you've got?
Yeah, well, you know, all of the above, and so, you know, we have a week, you know, to fix some things. You know, so some of the things that we can change, we will change. You know, and so that's going to take, and some of it may be personnel, some of it may be, you know, scheme-wise, and trying to figure out what is the best way, what are the best ways, you know, to put ourselves in position with the guys that we have out there to be able to get the job done. So, you know, we spend quite a bit of time with special teams. You know, the previous 2 weeks before that game, you know, special teams has been the difference for us in terms of the winning edge, and we did not get that edge on Saturday, but we certainly have to, you know, we certainly need that phase of the game, you know, we need that to be effective so we can play complementary football, and we didn't do that, you know, so, you know, obviously, you know, very, very disappointing. We also, you know, talked, you know, after the game, and we also talked, you know, today, you know, like when we talk about ownership, there's offense, defense, and special teams. We can point to all three phases where we didn't execute, you know, and so, you know, obviously everyone looks at, you know, at the end of a game, and that we make a kick or not. How did it get to that point in the first place? It's also something that we have to own. And we talked about finishing, being able to finish games. We talked about it at halftime. It was going to be important for us to be able to go out in the second half, execute, raise our level of intensity, and play 60 minutes of complimentary football. We were going to have to be able to do that. We knew that. We talked about that extensively at halftime. Because if you look at, the 3 of those last 4 games that we won, going into this Indiana game, we had an opportunity to win a game in regulation at Wisconsin, didn't do it, and actually what led up to that opportunity. We're in control of the game in Illinois, and it ends up going all the way down. And so how did it get to that point? And obviously there was special teams was part of that. But also defensively and offensively, being able to punch it in or be able to get them stopped. How did it get to that point? And so we held on to win that game. And then obviously, Rutgers game, we're in control of that game. And ultimately, we're scrambling to, recover an onside kick at the end to secure the win. How did it get to that point? So, finishing is something that, we need to do. So someone asked me on Saturday, like, how are we going to get the team back from this loss or this? Like, well, they haven't gone anywhere. It's the same guys. It's the same team. The difference between winning and losing is very slim. And when you look back at those games I just talked about, I mean, if we don't do certain things, we don't win those games. And we had opportunities to win this past game, and this time it got to that point and we didn't get it done. And it's a loss, so you could call it collapse or whatever, but it's not, there's very little difference between being able to win and being able to lose a game with these teams. And you look across college football, and you look at the scores this past weekend, and you look at the matchups, and like, what's the difference? What is the difference? It's one play, here or there. And it's a very unforgiving business. It's a very unforgiving proposition. You don't make those plays, you don't prevent certain things from happening, okay, then you're going to lose. And that's what happens. So we regroup and then we move forward. It's not about getting the guys back. They haven't gone anywhere and they're not going anywhere.
Mel Tucker not making excuses, but there are some guys they have to get back. As a matter of fact, Michigan State has so few healthy bodies, they're not able to hit during practice right now. Tucker says it's been like that for the last 3 weeks. We're just trying to get guys to the game so we have enough to be able to play. Everybody needs to have goals. That's not a great one to have to deal with before you're dealing with a Penn State team that is on the cusp of a 10-win regular season.
We needed this one for a lot, man, for the program, for you guys, everything you've been through for Devin. Proud of you, man. We stuck together. It wasn't pretty. We knew it wasn't going to be easy, man. You stuck together. It's a big-time win for this program, man, the way we bounced back. Proud of you guys. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. We needed this one for a lot, man, for the program.
Not just a big win, but an emotional win for Jim Leonhard and the Badgers, coming less than a week after the shooting death of Devin Chandler, former Wisconsin wide receiver who had transferred to Virginia and was part of that horrific tragedy over the course of last weekend. Also made the Badgers bowl eligible this season and perhaps put a feather in the cap of Leonhard, who is trying to tear that interim tag off his head coaching title and become the permanent coach of the Badgers heading into 2023. Of course, still have to finish 2022 strong, and they did so with that last-second touchdown from Graham Mertz in Lincoln to beat Nebraska on Senior Day. Now the Badgers head back home for that always exciting rivalry matchup with the Axe on the sidelines against the Golden Gophers. Here is the aforementioned Jim Leonhard.
Good morning. Once again, just proud of our group. how they responded at Nebraska last week, and to gut out a win the way we did after the week that we had, just an impressive finish to that week. Wasn't pretty, wasn't up to the standards of play that we want to have, but the finish was exactly what we needed last week. And turning the page, I'm very excited for this opportunity. Get back in Camp Randall to finish the regular season off against Minnesota and bring the Axe back. I'm excited for the opportunity our seniors have here with Senior Day, and just really looking forward to getting to game day.
Jim, regarding Nick's targeting call, I understand there's an appeal process you can go through. Is that something you plan to pursue? Have you guys initiated that process yet? Just your thoughts on that.
We have started that process, and we'll continue to push. I don't agree with the call, so obviously we want to get some clarity on, one, was it correct, and two, how can we train our players better to avoid those situations. He was committed to making a tackle and did everything he could to avoid contact, as far as rolling off, and unfortunate that it was called that way, and hopefully we can get it changed, but I don't know what the likelihood of that will be.
Jim, what's this rivalry with Minnesota come to mean to you? And will you have anybody come in and speak to the team about the history like they've done in years past?
Yeah, we'll have a number of people talk. The beauty of this program is we've had a lot of people who've been a big part of this rivalry, and it means a lot to a lot of people. So I'm excited to kind of teach the guys who don't know much about the history. It means everything. It's the longest rivalry in college football. If that doesn't mean anything to you, then it's hard. We've talked at length on what I feel about rivalries in college football. It's what makes the game special, and we will respect the rivalry, and I'm excited to get out there and go and get a win.
Jim, going back to the targeting situation, if the appeal doesn't go through, this would be the second year in a row that your defense is affected by the targeting call in the Minnesota game. Just your thoughts too. Should there be any revisions in your mind with the targeting situation if there is that opportunity down the road?
I would like it to be changed. In my opinion, I think there are clear violations of rules that need to be punished, and I think there's a lot of gray. And they've done a good job, I think, of eliminating some of that gray, but it's still a subjective call, and I think there's the intent of the rule, and then there's some situations just like Nick's that kind of fall into that gray area of depends on how somebody sees it that day, and that's what I hate for these guys. They work too hard to get thrown out of games and miss time for bang-bang situations that you can clearly see were not violent and intentional. And like I said, the ones that are clear, you should be punished. There are certain hits that we're trying to get out of the game of football, and that's why the rule is not 100% bad, but I would like there to be revisions to it, and hopefully in the future there can be. But I do think there has been progress over the last year or two.
Jim, a couple weeks ago you mentioned the transitions that CJ Getz has gone through throughout his career here, and he's had a couple of good games really back-to-back. Do you think he's kind of a rarity, maybe becoming a rarity in the sport? That guy waits as long as he did to finally kind of get his time, and maybe not going to happen as much now with the transfer portal and guys maybe trying to jump to different opportunities?
Well, I hope he's not becoming a rarity, because that's the reality of football, is a lot of players, it takes time. They are not a finished product when they get to the college level, and I think that's the false reality of kind of where football is right now, is everybody wants it right now. And they expect immediate success, and they expect the playing time, they expect the production, but that's not how it works. And that's why the transfer portal is loaded right now. Is the process, I think, is getting ahead of itself, and we have to continue to push to educate these players on really what it takes and what it means. It hasn't been that long where the expectation was to get into a program and grow and develop and continue to take steps to increase your role. Only recently has that drastically changed. We've had these conversations just last week as a defensive staff. You look at the experience we've had on our side I was the outlier playing my second year. Everybody else took year 3, year 4, where all of a sudden they took that big jump. And these are guys who've played a lot of football, and that's not uncommon. But I think the misconception out there of players is they're on a 3-year plan right now. And, if it doesn't happen year 1, well, is this the right place for me? It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So hopefully CJ Getz is not the outlier, but the norm kind of gets back to what the reality of the sport is and the development of 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old men is. And, that'd be a big part of, if I get this job, is re-educating them on what the reality is of this jump from the high school to college level is.
Jim, after Nick left the game, Caden Johnson was one of the guys who came on, and in that brief stretch, he made a handful of plays. So I'm wondering, what kind of stood out to you about what you saw from him and maybe that final quarter plus, and with him, this being year 3 for him in the program, where have you seen his development?
Yeah, I was very proud of that whole linebacker group on how they stepped up. You mentioned Caden. He made multiple plays down the stretch. Darrell Peterson gets his first sack, comes up with a huge play. CJ Getz, unsung play on the second down, the last drive. He runs one down from the opposite side of the formation when we had a mistake. Huge plays to finish that game out by the outside linebacker group, and in a time that we needed it, right? We didn't have our leader. We didn't have our number 1 playmaker at the position. So just very proud. They're continuing to get better. The consistency is just rising. And you're starting to see the light come on from a confidence and a play speed, physicality standpoint from that young group, and it gets us really excited as coaches to see what the future is going to be.
Jim, with just the holiday as is, how does your practice schedule change this week at all? And second part, maybe, are the coaches allowed to have dinners with players, or how's kind of the meal, or how's that day kind of affect what's going on this week?
Yeah, the week will be changed kind of towards the end as school closes. Thursday, Friday, we're able to adjust the schedule just based on not having classes. So we'll do that, and we'll throw a team kind of dinner, early dinner for our guys, as many families and friends over as we can. And it's always great to kind of change the mood, get away from football a little bit, watch some NFL. There's still plenty of time before game day, and also able to kind of tweak what Friday's schedule will be just without the classes as well. So it's definitely a change, but it's always fun. Anytime you can be around your players, get them around family, and just change the mood a little bit is great for your football team.
Jim, Minnesota earlier this year lost their best wide receiver. Their quarterback's been banged up. But that running back, if you look at his numbers, I mean, he's been tremendous for them. What do you see when you look at him on tape, and you've obviously played him before, and not being in that locker room, how much you think, what is his value to that offense? I mean, where might they be without him?
He's been a top-tier running back in college football for a long time. I'm ready for him to leave and move on. It's just impressive, the physicality, the consistency that he runs with, the vision. He's going to make you earn it every time you have to tackle him, and he's done it for a long time in that program. So he sets the tone. You can tell, their offensive line feeds off of it. The other running backs, they mimic his running style as well. They're very consistent in what they ask their backs to do, and I think it starts with him. Obviously, above him, right, the coaching style, what they ask their players to do, but anytime your best player is that consistent and productive, it's impressive. And they're a time of possession team. It's very similar to us, where they want to control the clock. They're not afraid of shortening the game and trying to find ways to win it in the second half. And defensively, they're playing well. They're creating turnovers. They're limiting possessions from offenses as well, and just very good complementary football. And they've been doing that for years. And I think it really starts with the run game and specifically with Mo.
You were asked a couple of weeks ago if you've had a chance to sit down with Chris and kind of lay out your vision. Just an update on that, have you? And now that the job's been posted, do you anticipate something more formal, a more formal sit down this week at all?
Yes, I believe that will happen soon. I mean, I don't really want to get into much of that right now. You know, this week to me is still about this season. It's about this group of players. As far as the media goes, I don't need or want that attention for our guys. So I'm going to have some conversations this week, and hopefully it leads in the direction I want it to go. I got about $20 if I can get some of your sources in here. There's a lot of information I'm hearing, but I haven't been told. So, yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity to really lay out my entire vision for the athletic department, hopefully soon.
Jim, there's been some inexperience in youth on defense all season, but Torchio and Schiano have kind of held it down. How have you seen kind of both of their growth throughout their time here, and both on and off the wheel, turning in their best year of their career now?
As a coach, all you can ask for is growth and development. And they've been making plays in this defense for a long time. And anytime you see the off-the-field leadership, you know, the consistency, you bring in younger players along, like that's what really gets you excited, because that's going towards the future of the program. And they're both guys who had strong leaders in their position groups for years when they were young. And this year, you know, very, very aware that they had to be that person and wanted it and asked advice and wanted to know how to get it done. And even cooler to me is not naturally who they are, right? They are more of sit back, let others lead, do my job. And to see them really get out of their shell, become more vocal, it's really exciting as a coach. You know, some guys just have that knack of leadership, and it's in there, right? And others, it takes time, and they would rather kind of sit back and be the one-on-one type guy, grabbing guys on the side. But to see them become more vocal with the entire team, that's breads, and that's what's needed on a team to have success.
Jim, when you look back at the Minnesota game last year, there was obviously a lot on the line for this program with the division. What stands out when you reflect on that game? What did Minnesota do well? What didn't you guys do well? Is that something that you'll talk about or have talked about this year, just the feeling of losing to Minnesota and guys experiencing that?
Yeah, we already addressed it this morning. I think they out-physicaled us last year, and they finished, right? And we had the lead going at halftime, and they finished. They made plays in the second half to swing the game and create momentum and put us on our heels, and we couldn't overcome it. So I already mentioned, you know, they're okay shortening the game, playing tough, playing field position, finding ways to create turnovers and make it a second-half game. We got to win it. And we have to dominate the line of scrimmage, which is different this week, right, because it's going to be a good slugfest. You have to make plays. You have to make big plays on the perimeter, in the run game, in the pass game. You have to create turnovers. That's what's going to get it done. And it might be one, right? It might be three. You don't know what you're going to need. So I'm excited for the challenge. They're a physical downhill team on offense. Obviously, defensively, we're playing at a high level right now, and offensively last week, it was really fun to see our guys get into a rhythm, and it took us a while, but we were able to finish some drives and get a win. We got to come out hot starting the first quarter to get this one done.
You mentioned this rivalry off the top. You played them 4 times. I know that's a long time ago, but anything that stands out from those games and what the rivalry came to mean to you from those games? I know one game, I think Anthony Davis ran wild. I think the 2004 game, I don't know if you remember much about that because you guys were unbeaten at the time and you beat them pretty handily.
Yeah, they stand out. You know, to me, senior day was an amazing experience to win the Axe, keep it home, you know, finish off the rivalry that way. 2002, I think Anthony Davis went off and had a huge game. I had a couple interceptions. That never gets brought up. I don't really understand why, but he gets all the credit for that one. But, yeah, I mean, you just know the records don't matter. You go in there, it's going to be a physical game. You have to earn it. You got to take it away. And that's the fun part about rivalries to me is it doesn't matter. Banged up, healthy, struggling, playing well, you know, you go out there and win it. Go earn a win. So I've always respected this program. I don't like them, right? But I respect them because they have an identity. They know who they are, and they're going to force you to beat them, very similar to what we are. So it's going to be fun experience on Saturday, and we need to get out of there with a win.
Jim, you mentioned their offensive line, the run game. It seems like that's been a big emphasis for Fleck since he got there, is improving that offensive line. How have you seen it kind of grow in the last 4 or 5 years?
Literally grow, right? From a size standpoint, massive up front. And they are not complicated in what they try to get done, but they're going to force you. They're going to run downhill and force you to tackle them. You're going to throw their RPOs and play action behind it. And it's simplicity at its finest a little bit. They limit the options you have on defense at times, especially if they're ahead of the sticks. It's very similar to playing option style of football. If they're ahead of the chains and they're moving the football on the ground, they're going to be very patient and they're going to force your hand a little bit, right? Are you willing to be aggressive, right? And they're going to counter off of that. Are you willing to sit back and be patient? So it's a similar thought process on the defensive side of playing option football at times because of the patience that they show. Most teams don't have that patience. And then defensively, they're creating some problems. They're playing very well in the box, playing physical, changing coverages, forcing the quarterback to think, forcing O lineman to think. Anytime you're mixing and matching that way on defense, causing multiple layers of issues, you're going to play well. And tackling, physicality has been there for them in previous years, and they probably haven't gotten credit for some of the athletes that they've had. They've put out some very talented players in recent years.
Jim, this isn't a Minnesota-specific question, but you've had to devise ways to stop various types of offenses over the years. Is there a scheme or a system that's more difficult to go up against than others? Is there? I don't know. I know that's a broad question because there's a lot of different types, but I'm just curious what your thoughts on that.
I think that gets a little bit to your personnel. What is our personality on defense? What are our strengths? Because I think it can change year in and year out. Obviously versus the spread right now, we got a lot of options. We can get to some unique things, but we've also been pretty damn good in the run game. So I think to me it more goes with your strengths and who they have, right? Not all X's and O's are created equal. And, a little bit of the equalizer, the great equalizer right now in college football is a quarterback that can run and a quarterback that can turn a bad play into a good play. And that's always given us issues, right? As most teams, you look around the country, anytime you can play perfect football and still lose, it's pretty frustrating. So, I don't know if I answered your question because I think it truly comes down to your personality and kind of what you're consistently doing well at the time. And if that matches up with the other team's strengths, you feel good. If it doesn't, you're going to have to try to steal some plays throughout the game.
Jim, I know you mentioned you don't. It's about this week in the season still, but I'm just curious how it feels like you're putting yourself in a good position to earn the job. How do you balance kind of forming the vision for long term and just kind of focusing on the game as well? I'm sure you've kind of thought about the big picture as well. How have you balanced the two?
Well, you can do both. Just because I don't need to talk about it with media and people outside of the program doesn't mean I'm not thinking of all of those things. So I have to learn how to compartmentalize and put my focus where it needs to be. There's a lot of hours in the day to be able to get that done. So that's the fun part. It's not going to change. If I get this job, right, it's only going to be every day from here on forward of having a lot of different boxes to check and conversations that need to be done and big decisions. So I'm excited for that opportunity if I get it. We need to win and play well. That was when I stepped into this position, the only chance that I had to get the job was to change the course of the season, right? So to be able to focus on playing better football and finding a way to get wins, getting bowl eligible, how you play, style of play matters. We had a lot of big things that needed to be accomplished on the football field, and throughout that process, I've been able to have a lot of conversations on what the future should look like.
Jim, when you go into a week like this where the other team's got a banged-up quarterback, you're not sure which one's going to play, how do you balance your time preparing for both, or do you even do that? Do you just say, like, hey, let's just kind of prepare for the offense and maybe the quarterback doesn't matter as much?
Quarterbacks always matter. They always matter. So, it makes it a little bit more difficult. If the quarterbacks are similar in how they're used, it makes it easier, but obviously in this case, there's a huge discrepancy in experience and trust in the offense. So we have to prepare a little bit differently for both styles of quarterback, or both quarterbacks that could be on the field. Said they're very consistent in their approach and how they attack, which really is going to force us into digging deeper into finding what the true differences are based on who the quarterback is. But to me, the biggest thing is that experience level. Tanner Morgan's played a really long time as well and been very successful in that offense and knows it like the back of his hand, right? And they put the ball in his hands to make a lot of decisions. So if he's the quarterback this week, it definitely changes, I think, their aggressiveness and their approach on how they attack us.
And the same can be said for Wisconsin's defense as it pertains to the availability of Nick Herbig, ejected in the second half of last week's game against Nebraska, so he is officially ineligible for the first half of the Axe matchup, though Wisconsin has started the appeal process. Jim Leonhard saying he's not sure of how successful that would be, but certainly hoping that the call is overturned and Herbig is able to start on Saturday against the Gophers. Speaking of the Gophers, hard-fought 13-10 loss this past week against Iowa at home. That snapped a three-game win streak, I should say. It also eliminated Minnesota from conversation about getting to Indianapolis as the representative of the Big Ten West. But still, when the axe is up for grabs, certainly bowl slotting as well. Plenty to play for as we head to Minneapolis and listen in to PJ Fleck.
Obviously, a disappointing loss. Coming off the rivalry with Iowa, a lot of positives to take from that football game. We did everything but win the football game. That's what's really, that's what's hard when you're swallowing that pill, to really, outplay a team the entire game and have multiple opportunities to win the game and not do it. But these lessons teach us an awful lot. We're going to learn a lot from it, grow, and move on. So to us, it was a one-game championship season. We did not win, but we're grateful for the opportunity to learn, and we'll move on from there. So kids came in yesterday, great attitude, ready to roll, and ready for one of the greatest rivalries in all college football coming up here with the Axe. So with that, open up for questions because I'm sure you have some.
PJ, with the portal opportunity coming up, fair to say you've got a pretty good idea of what you want to do position-wise, and do you expect that the portal generally will be wilder than ever? And,
it'll be wilder than ever, yes, 100%. We have a general idea of what we want to do and how we want to attack that. We're still going to be a mixture of high school kids and portal, but I think the biggest difference is once we have this December 5th window coming up where people can enter the portal, I think once we see what our roster is going to look like, once the Wisconsin game is over, we sit down with every single player. I'll know where everybody stands, who's leaving, who's staying, and then we can make decisions accordingly as we go forward. So still a mixture, though, and but it will be more wild than it's ever been, I promise you that. Not just here, just around the country.
PJ, what are the elements that stand out in kind of why you weren't able to get it done on Saturday? Or that stick with you?
It was the first person that made a catastrophic error was going to lose that football game, and we made two of them. We did everything we possibly could as a football team to put ourselves in positions to win, and I think everybody in that stadium, except for the last maybe minute of the game, thought we were going to win that football game. And as a head coach, you got to do everything you can to put yourself in a position and put your team in a position to have the opportunity to go win games. And I've told you before, there's times that you feel like you didn't do that, times you feel like you did do that. But at the end of the day, we made a catastrophic error, and we can't do those things. And then we made another one on the next drive. We dropped an interception, which would have been tough, but dropped that as well. They caught the ones that were thrown to them that was tipped. And it's kind of been the story of the rivalry in the last few years. We just haven't been able to finish it, and got to be able to do it.
With the heavy
great thing about rivalries is you get another shot next year. It's a whole year away, but you get another shot. But it's been tough to lose those real close ones, especially this one when, again, I thought we did everything but win the game.
With the heavy success, especially in the second half in the ground game, was there any notion to get more involved with the play action, or it just seemed like there weren't very many passing attempts, so what went into that?
Well, I don't know if we necessarily needed it. The greatest running back, I think, possibly arguably in Minnesota history is in the backfield. Why wouldn't you give him to him 39 times? And he went right down the field, 97 yards. And I thought when we did throw it, we were very effective. if you look at Ethan's statistics, take out the last 3 or 4 throws of the game, right? I thought he was very efficient. It's actually a pretty good throw. The one he throws, just it's a little off mark, get a little contact there, ball goes in the air, and it happens to be tipped into their hands. It's a 3rd and 7. We're out of field goal range right there. So if we don't get the first down there, we're going to punt anyway and pin them down in there. We had just come off the fumble, just got the ball back, dropped an interception, just came back. But listen, the last, when you look at our running game, the last 2 years, we've been pretty good at it. And we've been able to, our starting number 1 receiver's been out the last 2 years. So when that happens, you got really good tailbacks and really good people to hand the ball off to. Why wouldn't you do it? I mean, Muhammad had, 265 yards or something like that. That's the most single running back individual performance against Iowa since 1994. And I would have given to him 45 more times there was more time. It's just he's one of the greatest, and he can handle all that. And but that didn't. I thought, again, when you looked at how we executed it, if coulda, woulda, shoulda. I mean, I thought giving ourselves the best opportunity to win the football game. If we won it, you wouldn't have asked that question, because it was set up perfectly to win the football game, and we just didn't do that.
Was there consideration to go to Mo on that 3rd and 7, possibly going for it on 4th if you didn't get it?
Well, I think that was a tall task to ask, because you're going to have to get the first down just to get into field goal range in the situation and the weather that was playing. And then especially already going 1 of 2 in the field goal department, then giving them the ball, not towards midfield, but around the 30-some yard line. But no, I mean, it was a really good call. Just if we catch it, and the ball's put, a foot more in, and we actually make that play, which we're capable of making, then it's a different story. But I think they're in man coverage. They knew that was coming. It was more like a 4 clam where they came down and had a lot of people in the box. So it's a version of man, but puts another hat in the box, which would have been tough to get that 7 on that. So, but like you said, I mean, got to do everything you possibly can to get that first down. That's a critical piece of the game. But if you go back, again, dropped interception, fumble before that, we're not even talking about that play.
I know you try to avoid the big picture with the Iowa loss, and not just this year, the last couple of years, being so close. Has that hurt any more considering the opportunity you had in the West Division?
Well, I think, look at the West. I mean, everybody's had a chance at the West. It's not just us. Every single team has had a chance to win the West at some point outright and run away with it. And that's what makes the West so competitive. The parity is pretty close amongst every team in that division. I mean, Northwestern's got a chance to win the game last week. I mean, the parity is incredible. There are some things that we look back, and you're always going to circle 1 or 2 plays. But, none of us wanted it to happen, the way it happened. But it happened, and you need to be grateful for it. If you're grateful for your life, you don't get to pick and choose what you're grateful for. You're either grateful for your life or not. Whether it comes from the tragedy or the suffering, you have to be grateful for those things. And that's what's so hard, because we get way down on the loss, we get way up with the win, and that's part of your job and your role. But when you're grateful for your life, and you're grateful for your team, and you're grateful for your players, I mean, you need to be grateful for the suffering as well. You need to be grateful for the things and the lessons that's going to teach you. I'm not saying we're happy we lost, but there are so many lessons that come out of that. I mean, there was one person in that house that gave me the ball, and that was Muhammad, and we gave him the ball. He's fumbled 4 times in 800 carries, everybody. I mean, it's not his fault. No one play loses you the game. We had plenty of opportunities, right? We had a missed field goal in there, But Andy asked a question, and I apologize for Andy. I didn't understand your question at the time. There was a lot of plays going on. I'm not sure which one you were talking about. But even the 3rd and 1 prior to going into halftime, everybody in the stadium knew we were going to run that football. We run it naked. We got 2 people wide open. We got a touchdown. And that's why we called it, to go get a touchdown. Unfortunately, we weren't able to execute. Then the next play, because we weren't able to execute it, we needed points. And I don't go into something saying, I don't think we're going to get it. You don't go into that. I wouldn't send the field goal unit out if I didn't think that. We happened to miss that, down 10-7, come out the next time. We had to get points on that opening drive. You know how important that is to me. We did get points on that opening drive. It's 10-10, basically 0-0. Here we go. And our defense was playing so well after the first 10 points given up. And we did all throughout the game. Then there's 2 massive drives. We have critical opportunities and great opportunities to score, and we did not do that. But that's what happens in rivalry games. You got to give them a lot of credit. They're a really good football team. 31, he's an All-American for a reason, and he made 2 All-American plays.
Evaluating the program as a whole, the running offense and the defense look in great shape. But other than just executing, do you think there's a philosophical change needed with the passing game?
No, we just have to do it better. I mean, philosophical differences, same offense as 2019 with 2 all first team all Big Ten wide receivers. It's just when we have somebody that special in the backfield, then it works for us. And our number 1 receiver's out. I think 2019 pass game would look different if Rashad Bateman wasn't in there or Tyler Johnson wasn't in there. In fact, we had 2 guys that were in there, both not in there. So when you have your number 1 receiver out, which has been unfortunate the last 2 years, that plays a role in it. It does. It plays a role in the back of your mind of what you're going to do to go win games. Because every single game that you go into for 3 hours, what's going to be our best opportunity to win the football game? What gives us the best chance to go win football games? And popular or unpopular, we know those decisions inside our program. Doesn't mean we don't have faith in our pass game. But when we have opportunities to throw them, we're either going to connect or not connect. I mean, we had some opportunities that we were able to connect in the pass game on Saturday. And some, I wish we would have been able to see it better and connect on it because it was there. But that comes down to us teaching and coaching it better and getting our guys to that level where they can make the plays. I couldn't be more proud of our players. Couldn't be more proud of how hard they play. I told them that in the locker room. There's nothing to be ashamed of how hard we played, that we just haven't had it bounce our way in a few games against Iowa. That's hard. That's hard because they've been incredibly close, and it's been one play here or there that have changed the tide of that rivalry. And unfortunately, we've been on the short end of the stick here or there. But all changeable, all fixable, and couldn't be more proud of our players of the fight and the heart and the determination and the resolve they showed throughout that entire game. They left it all out there. And that's all I can ask as a coach. And then you play the chances and give the ball to your best players.
Is it tougher to hit that reset button on Sunday when you have such a close game and you had so many chances, or is it easier when you have such another big rivalry game?
They're all hard. They're all hard. When you lose, they're all hard. They all matter. You only get 12 of them guaranteed, so they all matter. I think, when you're talking rivalry games, if the pain's at a 99 usually, maybe it's at 99.5 or 100, But other than that, it's 1-0. And we came in on Sunday and came in yesterday, and our guys were incredibly focused, ready to roll for one of the greatest rivalries in all college football. So that's a great thing about playing at Minnesota. You have a lot of them, and you have a lot of opportunities to play in those games and take a lot of pride in it. And that's why it's a rivalry. It comes down to that last possession like that or that fourth quarter. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, it's football, though. The ball is not round. I think Ole Miss had 700 yards of offense and lost last week. 460 yards rushing, two backs over 200 yards. I mean, you saw the Bills-Vikings game. It's football. And you saw yesterday's game. Football's unique. It's definitely a different sport. But couldn't be more proud of our players. I will say that.
Yeah, Mo seemed like he was taking the loss pretty hard after the game, and understandably. I guess what were your conversations with him like afterward?
I just told him how proud of him I am, how much he's done for this program. Don't you ever be ashamed, and don't you let anybody else tell you should be ashamed of anything. That guy's fumbled 4 out of 800 carries. He's arguably the greatest running back here and one of the greatest backs ever to play this game. Don't you ever be ashamed of one play. And that I was told a long time ago, one play does not lose you a game. And that is true. Now, one play can win you a game, but one play cannot cost you a game. There's too many of them. But that's all I kept telling him. And that's what I told him yesterday. But he gets it. And, that's what I said about the gratitude. When you're a big-time player, that's what it's all about. And how many plays has he made where he's made the game-winning play, game-winning touchdown, game-winning decision, game-winning slide, all those things. And we still had chances after that. And he wanted to, like I said, there was one guy in the huddle saying, give me the ball. And we were going to listen to him. So, and that's what we continued to do. And he's so tough. Just how much I loved him and how much he's done for this program. And he bounced back pretty quickly. He's becoming an elite man. He knows how to, and that's the whole part about that gratefulness. That's what I told him too. When you're grateful for the entire thing. You're not just grateful for the proud moments. You're grateful for the adversity, and this is going to teach him an awful lot.
How good, PJ, did you feel the offensive line played against obviously everybody knows a great Iowa defense, and they knew you were going to run the ball?
Well, we did everything we could to win the football game. If you would have told me we were going to rush for close to 300 yards, I would tell you we're going to win the football game because, first of all, we had no penalties. There wasn't one penalty in that game. There wasn't one penalty thrown. There wasn't one penalty picked up. That is football. I mean, that's Big Ten football. I don't know if that's happened since, I don't know. Somebody told me 1986. Zero penalties, right? We're talking about a tough, disciplined rivalry game. And up front, that's where it started on both sides. I thought they played really hard, played strong, played physical, set the tone. And like I said, I thought we beat them in almost every single area except on the scoreboard. But that's what counts at the end of the day. They found a way at the very end to take advantage of one of our mistakes. And I said this at the beginning of the week. I said, whoever makes the first catastrophic mistake is probably going to lose that game. That's what happens. But we've built something that we've caught them. And I feel like we've caught up to them in a lot of areas and closed the gap in a lot of areas. Now we just got to do it on the scoreboard. But they deserve a ton of credit because they're the ones that can finish it. So, but really proud of our offensive line. Really proud of them. And I think they're playing really well, playing lower, gelling together. Coach Callahan's done a really good job with them. I mean, I'm not sure how many yards they've had an average against them, but it wasn't 280 yards rushing or whatever it was. It wasn't that. So.
What stands out about Wisconsin since Jim Leonhard's taken over?
Yeah, I mean, we're still watching all the film as we speak right now, but I don't know if it's necessarily just Jim taking over. I mean, it's a typical Wisconsin team. They're going to run the football. They got wideouts that can really catch it and run. Drop back game, they're doing a little bit more of it than they have in the past. They've got some linemen rotating in and out. Defensively, when you look at them, I mean, they've got really good linebackers that can move laterally really well, tackle well. And then up front, I mean, they've got some massive guys, and they play the edges really well, really athletic defensive ends. And I think the word athleticism comes to mind. They're just really athletic at every position. And whether they're 325 pounds or whether they're 180 pounds, the whole team's athletic. And sometimes they're really big, strong, physical, and they still are that, but very athletic across the board on both sides of the ball and special teams.
One or two more for Coach. Andy, go ahead.
PJ, when you look at pressures, it seemed like it was on the uptick, and then Iowa, I think it was maybe half a dozen and a sack. How did you feel like defensive pressure was?
I thought we did a really good job of just take the first drive out, right? Take that first screen out, okay? Because they get us on a screen, they get us on a tight end seam, they get us on a fourth down conversion where two of our guys run into each other. We drop an interception, but other than that, I mean, I thought we played really good defense. I mean, we stopped the run, and that was the whole point. Against Iowa, we have to be able to stop the run. Keep everything in front of you, which I thought we did in the past game besides 2 plays. So I thought we played really outstanding defense and played good enough to win. But again, they played really good defense too. Those are 2 really good defensive football teams. But again, it comes down to the catastrophic mistakes. And it could be the dropped interception. It could be the fumble. It could be the interception. You can pull from both sides of that. It could be the fourth down play. Makes a difference. But they had their fair share too. But I think that one thing they do is they throw in rhythm really well, and it's hard to get to Petrus. It's hard to get to him. I think teams have had a hard time getting him on the ground. And if they have, they've had to blitz 5 or 6 people to get to him because they're such a rhythmic offense, getting the ball out, shorter passes, everything else down the field set up through play action, gives them a little extra time. But I thought we did a good job of closing the pocket. He didn't get out of the pocket an awful lot. There were some ill-advised throws, because of the pressure, because of hands in the face. But I thought they did a really good job of what we expected them to do.
Update, Coach, on availability among starters as far as injuries, health?
No. Sorry, I don't.
What's unique about this rivalry game with Wisconsin compared to the one you just played in?
Well, I think they're both incredibly important to our fan base, our states, our border states. I mean, those truly matter. That's why you come play at those schools for those types of rivalries. It's the oldest. I think that's something that that's 131 years before you. It's going to be hundreds of years after you, and you just get to be this small speck of time, and you've got your opportunity. And I think that's what makes college football so unique. you go through the whole list of rivalries this week, and it's fun to listen to the history of it, and read the history of all of them, whether it's the Egg Bowl or whether it's our game, whether it's the game with Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State. You can go on and on about all the rivalries that are happening this week. It's really exciting. It's what makes college football very different and very unique. We're just grateful to be a small part of it. And, I know our guys are bounced back yesterday really well and are excited to play in the game, which I'm sure the Badgers are too.
Go ahead, Andy. There were 23 points scored one end of the field and none on the other. How much was a factor of the wind on Saturday?
Well, I think it calmed down in the second half, and according to the data, it was calming down in the second half, which was good for how we needed to be able to go out there and execute it. But I think early in the game, I think it was definitely a difference. You even look at Trickett's kick to start. I mean, it's in there, and then whoosh, there's a gust of wind that takes it, and it's just part of our stadium. And sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. It can fool you in different ways. But, I think it limited both teams field position-wise. Punting was a big piece of that. You saw when the ball hit, though, and the ball was so hard. The ball didn't roll a lot. But, again, we both have to play in it. And it's November football in the Midwest. It's November football in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. I mean, that's why you come here to play. I mean, you get those types of cold weather games.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Roll the boat, Sky Mago Gophers. Thanks.
Unbelievable. Nearly 400 yards, 399 to be exact, gained. And this man had 263 of them in a losing effort. Mo Ibrahim literally running away with Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year honors. That's the most yardage any team, Big Ten or anywhere, has run for against that vaunted Iowa defense in some 3 decades plus. If Purdue loses, but Illinois won't know because it's kind of at the same time, then Illinois would have a chance to go to Indianapolis. I hope you wrote all that down. Of course, the Illini are dealing with a Northwestern team stuck in a nearly season-long losing jag. Pat Fitzgerald on how the Purple plan to get out of it.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving week. Hope everybody has a fun and safe week and gets a chance to enjoy the weekend, especially Thursday with your family, and if not, maybe like we are on Zoom. But a lot to be thankful for here in our program. We have so many students that obviously help us out on a day-to-day basis, be that our equipment staff, our video staff. They do a terrific job. Our AT staff that are in here before we start and are working long after practice is done and long after a game is done. And so really appreciative of that. Obviously, our great band, our great seniors in NUM, and same thing with our Spirit Squad for all of our seniors that have been a part of the program now for a number of years. We're just so thankful. We'll honor our seniors also before the game, like everybody does either last weekend or this weekend, and a group that has battled through a bunch. They've done a terrific job keeping our team together, and really thankful for them. And it'll be sad to see them depart our program, but I'll be excited for them, be it if they play on Sunday or move on and use their great Northwestern degree to move on to the real world. But just really thankful for all of our seniors and all that they've done. And if it's in the arena as our young men or those that support our staff and support the program. I know last week was a very tough week for Coach Bielema. I reached out to him and expressed our thoughts and prayers, having lost his mother, someone who's gone through that. I definitely want to lift Brett, his family up in our thoughts and our prayers. I've had a lot of respect for Brett for a long time. We started as head coaches the same year together and have known each other for a long time. He's done a great job since taking over Illinois. They're playing at a very high level in all 3 phases. And, I have guys up for multiple awards, not only in the Big Ten, but also nationally. It's very well deserving. So it'll be a hard fought battle. It's always a tough battle when you play rivalry week, and they've got the Land of Lincoln Trophy, and we're gonna have to play clean to be able to compete. I'm gonna have to play our best game to have a chance to win the game. So I know our guys put together a great week of prep, but it's exciting to be in rivalry week and a lot to be thankful for. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Reminder, if you have a question, please message Athletic Communications in the chat. First question for Lauren Withrow.
Hey, Coach, with a number of seniors going off this weekend, what do you think needs to happen this week, whether it's in practice or in Saturday's game, to feel like you sent them out on the right note?
Yeah, Lauren, I think practice-wise, we've been pretty consistent, and I'm proud of, again, the seniors for that. I mean, it starts with that group and, permeates through our leadership council and captains, and they've put in great effort all week. Great effort every week. And so I would be really disappointed if that's not the case again here this week. And, I think like everybody, you want to win your rivalry game. I mean, that's how you send them out the right way. And, send them out victorious is always the goal. And, I thought a lot of our guys, played with that kind of senior type mentality last week. My hope is they do it again this week.
Next question for Bradley Locker.
Coach, you talked about that goal of winning the rivalry week, taking back the hat. And I know all season you've kind of said that you don't really like looking at past results too much. Is that kind of a different story in a game like this where there's a trophy associated with it? It's maybe a little more bitter compared to other games. And if so, how are you guys using last year's result as motivation for this week?
Yeah, Brad, I would say from a standpoint of the way that we played is enough motivation. We didn't execute very well, at all in any phase of the game last year down there, and they played at a very high level. So, it doesn't take long to pop on the tape to see that we've got to perform better to win. And, I've been on the winning side of this game, quite a bit. So I got a pretty good idea what it takes to win it. And my hope is that I can get the guys to play clean and play consistent here for one last time together.
John Riker.
Hey, Coach, thanks for chatting with us today. What has been kind of the impact of this group of seniors? Obviously, it's a group that's kind of overcome some obstacles with the pandemic and has been a part of some great successes for this team.
Yeah, John, I mean, you're exactly right. I think you answered your own question. I mean, they've been through a lot. I mean, it'll be a really interesting chapter in their life book, when they get down, with college, with playing ball, as they start their family, just what they went through in their college experience from COVID to championships and kind of everything in between. It's a pretty unique experience, and it's been a great group. They've been a fun group to be around every single day, a myriad of personalities, which makes it fun. Very talented group, and, a group that I think has taught our younger players how to prepare, how to battle through adversity, and, how to stay real positive. And I've been really proud of the guys for that.
Reminder, if you have a question, to please message Athletic Communications in the chat. Another one for Lauren.
Coach Cole Freeman, the first walk-on to start at quarterback since you've been here. What's impressed you most about his preparation and performance in last game?
Yeah, I mean, Cole's got, I think, a just demeanor and a mindset about him that he thinks about everybody before he thinks about himself. I mean, just an incredible, unselfish teammate. That brings an energy level and an excitement to our team that everybody kind of gravitates towards. He learned a ton of valuable quarterback college lessons, I think, on Saturday, and did a lot of things really, really well, and some things that I think he's going to learn and grow from. But I was really proud of him. I think he stepped up for everybody, and he's going to, I'm sure, step up again this week with his preparation and get himself ready to go play 1 week better here against the Illini.
Another one for Lauren.
Yeah, a little follow-up on the rivalry with some of the young guys out there, a lot of young guys getting reps. How do you instill the importance of the rivalry game and kind of explain the history of what that means to some of those first-year players who are going to see action on Saturday?
Yeah, I think you talk about things. Probably every coach in the country talks about the rivalry game in the offseason. They talk about it during training camp. You kind of put it away until you get to Sunday, which was – obviously you debrief on the game, and then you start putting your focus into the upcoming, rivalry game. And, you'll definitely go through the history. You'll go through a lot of different ways that we've won this game, and, learn some lessons from when we've ended up on the short end. But, at the end of the day, make sure that we, do what we can control, and that's prepare the right way, celebrate our seniors, and then hopefully play a very clean physical game on Saturday that gives ourselves a chance to win.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
I appreciate everybody. Again, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and to all the teams competing for a state championship here this weekend. I wish them nothing but the best of luck. I've got my eye on that Loyola 8A game in particular. Want to wish my son Jack and his younger brother Ryan, who's got a chance to dress for the games, the best of luck here. But best of luck to all the teams competing for the state championships here this weekend. It's a special weekend in football, and we're all very thankful. And lastly, I want to say thanks to all of our great fans. Very thankful for all that you've done, and been a tough year, but thankful for your support, and look forward to making you proud as we finish up, and definitely in the future. Thanks a lot. Go Cats.
Of course, Fitz with a vested interest in a couple of those high school contests. As for the Rutgers contest, the final one of the year, on the road at Maryland, Scarlet Knights looking to snap that 4-game losing streak they are stuck in right now. Need to play a little bit better than they did in that 55-10 loss to Penn State in the home finale this past Saturday. How did they do that? Well, there is no man better suited to answer that question than Rutgers head coach Greg Schiano.
Maryland, a really talented football team. Coach Locksley's doing a very good job. He's put together a group of players and coaches, I think, that really understand who they are and what they want to do. So it's going to be a huge challenge going on the road, going down there to College Park. And you look at them offensively, they're very talented. It starts with the quarterback. They're big on the offensive line, good receivers, run game. Defensively, they're very big on the front, and they mix it up, do some 3-down stuff, some 4-down looks. Linebackers, tough, can run. Secondary, corners are really, really good players. Safeties are physical guys. Special teams, they'll challenge you in just about every area. So it will be a big test, but one that we're excited about going down and tackling it. So I'll try to open up for anything I can help you with.
I guess just when we look at their quarterback Tagovailoa on film, I mean, how do you feel like he compares to last year, and is there any area that you feel like he's really made considerable improvements in?
Well, I thought he was good last year, so he's just a little bit better version of who he is. He gets a lot of attention for his mobility and his ability to create plays, but I think he's also a very good pocket passer and field general, runs their offense with a great deal of confidence. It doesn't look like there's anything that he's not comfortable with in what they're doing. So he and Coach Locksley have a long relationship, and I think he's at the stage in his career where things are clicking for him.
Can you just give us injury updates on a few guys? Do you want to go one by one, or do you want me to just?
You can go one by one. That's good. Then I won't forget.
Ireland Brown.
We're gonna have to wait and see. He's gonna give it everything he got to play in this game. So we'll see how it goes.
Dion looked like a game time decision. I don't know if he played at all. How's he?
Yeah, it was. It came down to warm ups, and he just didn't feel like it was good enough to go.
Kess, he didn't dress, I think, for the 4th time in 5 games, something like that.
Yeah, he's got an issue with lower extremity issue that he's just not quite there yet.
And 2 guys out for the year, Aaron Young, Rene Conga. Can you clarify it all?
Yeah, Rene Conga got hurt in the Michigan State game, if you remember. And he's had surgery, and he's done for the year. Lower extremity injury. And Aaron Young is done for the year. He's going to have a procedure here at the end of this week. I don't think it's going to be a major one, but they got to go in there and just take care of something. So, it's 2 guys that were, Aaron was coming on. He finally starting to look like himself again. So that's a shame. And Rene Conga was really coming on. I mean, he was having one of these kind of seasons, very productive and showing what he's going to be. But just kind of push it down the road a little bit, and he'll heal, and he'll be well.
Follow up on that, you talked about, I think, 11 surgeries after the game on Saturday. Is this, I know football's a violent game and all that, but is this more than you've ever dealt with? How's it compared to other seasons that you?
Yeah, this is about as many as we've ever had. Yeah, in 35 years. I've not seen it. But you know what? That's the way it goes. Some years it's that way, and I think it usually balances itself out. So we'll hopefully do a year where we don't have a bunch of those. But it is what it is. The guys that are playing are giving everything they got, and they're doing a heck of a job in their preparation. We're not quite there where we want to be, but as I told you guys Saturday after the game, we're a lot closer than maybe some people think. You know, when you watch our game as a coach, there's some, you know, I say this, and I'm not sure guys truly understand what I mean. When every game takes on a life of its own, we had plenty of opportunities in the first, I don't know what you'd say, 20 minutes of that game to have a substantial lead, not a lead, at home. We just didn't do it. So when we can do that, then we'll start winning those type of games. But until we do, it doesn't do me any good to stand up here and explain it away. It's our job to coach it, and it's our players' jobs to execute it. So we certainly both have to do that better. But I'm encouraged. I really am. I look at what's going on. We got a lot of good stuff going on. So got to go win this game.
Preparation-wise, is there anything you'll do differently to address maybe those areas where those miscues were? As you said, the margin for error is very thin.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to, like you always do, Bobby, you evaluate the tape, you see where your issues were, and then you really try to determine first. Like, I think what a lot of people want to do is they want to just fix the behavior right away. Well, we're going to fix the behavior, right? And I say behavior, the execution. But my question always to the players and the coaches is why? Like, why did we do it? We went into the game thinking we knew how to do it and we would do it, and then we didn't. Okay, so why? And it comes down to a couple things. Either we didn't coach it well enough, so there was a misunderstanding. They didn't learn it well enough, and there was a misunderstanding.
You may have heard Pat Fitzgerald earlier in the show offer his condolences to Brett Bielema, who lost his mother last week. Typically speaks on Monday, attending her services. So Brett Bielema not able to speak today. Our thoughts and prayers with Brett and the entire Bielema family as well. And with that, welcome you inside the Tuesday Coaches Press Conference edition of Big Ten Live. As you may have guessed, among the speakers that you will hear from over the next 90 minutes is the man who led Ohio State to that road victory at Maryland and has led the Buckeyes to 11 straight wins this year, Ryan Day, just moments away. You'll also hear from Michael Locksley, whose team fought valiantly but was unable to pull off the huge upset. Mickey Joseph and Nebraska, another gut-wrenching loss, this time in the last minute at home on Senior Day to Wisconsin. We'll hear from Joseph and James Franklin as well, his team on the cusp of a 10-win regular season. But we begin in Columbus, where the Buckeyes have already started to decorate. Is that decorating the helmets, or is that just a reminder of exactly who Ohio State will be facing this weekend? It is the rarity. The 11-0 versus 11-0. Both teams ranked inside the top four in the college football playoff meeting on the final Saturday of the regular season. It is as good as it gets. Same could be said for the career of Ryan Day since he took over as the head man in Columbus. Let's head there now and listen in to his weekly press conference.
Defense. Very similar. Like you said, a few tweaks here and there, but still very good players. And, they're playing very hard and, one of the best defenses in the country.
Second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
A couple weeks ago, you were talking about Ty Hamilton, might have been last week, and you used this phrase, starter caliber. I was curious on the other side of the ball, how close are you to using that term with Dallin Hayden? And is he someone that you're confident enough in after the last 2 weeks to rely on him in a big way?
Yeah, hard to say, but to see the way he stepped up last week was certainly tremendous and encouraging as we move into this rivalry week, and great to see him taking care of the football. That's the number one thing we need, and so he'll have to have a good week of practice, and I know he's going to prepare hard to get ready to play in this game.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, similarly, like you guys, there's questions about who's healthy on their side of the ball, specifically Blake Corum. How do you go into this week with questions about a running back that's so important to their offense? How do you guys prepare, and do you have to do anything different if he's not on the field?
He's a great player. We're going to prepare for him to play. We expect him to play, and we'll just do the best we can. They're a very good offense. They have plenty of running backs, plenty of good players. So while he is very, very good, we'll just continue to prepare for all of them.
Fourth row left, Jacob Bench, The Lantern.
Yeah, hey Ryan, just
before Saturday is the first version of the game in Columbus since 2018, and most of the undergraduate body at Ohio State hasn't seen that on campus or as a student, including myself. So just wanted to get your thought on that and how it's the first game between your team and their team, first time for you.
Yeah, 4 years. It's been a while, and being the 100th year anniversary is going to mean a lot more to a lot of people. On Saturday, we understand that, and there's nothing quite like the game, and certainly have learned so much over my time here at Ohio State about what this tradition means to so many across the country, and that's why we work the game so hard and take a lot of pride in being our best here. And this is our number one goal every season.
Hi, Ryan. How much, I don't know if you can qualify this, but how much of the mentality of this team is shaped off what happened in Ann Arbor last year?
Well, I think you're shaped by whatever's happened in your past, and we have scars, and it motivated us all off season. So we've worked very hard to get to this moment right here, and now it's time to go prepare the best we can, and that's what we're going to focus on, physically, mentally, and emotionally, to go play the hardest game we've ever played. And we'll find out where we're at on Saturday.
Ryan, in terms of the running back situation of Travion and Ryan, how much does that balance of how much they'll play on Saturday come down to how much they're able to practice during the week?
You're in week 12 here, so it's not like it's early in the season. These guys are experienced, so I think early in the year you'd say, well, if they hadn't practiced all week, it's going to be hard for them to play in a game. We'd like for them to practice, and we're going to plan on them to practice. But if they miss a little bit here and there to get healthy to go play in the game, then we'll adjust accordingly. But these are veteran players who have played a lot of football.
Third row middle, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, one advantage of Michigan's media day being yesterday is we get to follow up on what Jim Harbaugh says, which is usually a lot. He says there's no room for hate. This doesn't have to be hate in this game. But is there room for dislike, strong dislike? Where are you on this?
Well, it's one of the greatest rivalries there is in the country. And anytime you're fighting tooth and nail to win the game because of what's on the line, there's friction at times. It's just the way it works. And, we try to just focus on ourselves, focus on respecting the rivalry by working it every day out of the year. And going to go play as hard as we possibly can on Saturday.
You said this is the toughest game you'll ever played. Is this a referendum a little bit on what you guys are and the whole issue? It'll come to the surface?
Well, I just think, I think about my first year being the head coach here, and one of the first things we started off the whole press conference was it comes down to this game, and then you have to win every game after it. So it's not changed. It's been like this for 100 years here. So I get it. But obviously, this is a great opportunity. Both teams are undefeated. Two top, three teams in the country going together at the end of the year. This is what it's all about.
Right behind him, Tony Gerben, Buckeye Huddle.
So Ryan, this is your fourth year. You've been in the playoffs twice, championship game. You lose to Michigan last year, and you have so many questions, so many people questioning physicality, the toughness of the program. What's that been like?
Well, I think, when you focus on this year and the things that have been done, you've seen a lot of good play. You've seen us really work towards this moment right here. Listen, when you lose this game, it's a tough year. There's no hiding from that, but there's only one way to handle it. That's to go back to work, address the issues that you think need to get addressed. So when you go back to play the game, you're ready to roll. So we got, a few more days here to get ready to prepare. But up until this moment, we've done everything we can to get to this moment right here and be ready to go. And so, when you get to play on Saturday, you get to play with a lot of confidence because you've known you've been working towards this moment for so long. And then you go play as hard as you possibly can.
How many of the changes with the coaching staff or whatever happened because of that game?
I don't know if I could give you a number, but this is, we're evaluated by, the big games. That's the way it goes here. And certainly we know what comes with it.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals 97.1.
Ryan, it didn't look good for Matthew Jones on Saturday. I don't know what his status is, but if you have to make a move there, it seems like an interesting decision because Josh could kick inside. It seems like he's been the sixth guy. Enoch's been maybe the first at guard. I know you have a week of practice to the decision to make, but what do you think might be the best way forward there?
Yeah, if need be, you got a couple options right there that we'll work through during the week and figure out if we do need to go to depth, who to choose. and a lot of that have to do with how the week goes and how Matt's feeling and how well those guys do and pick up the game plan.
How much ability do you think Josh has to play inside or outside there?
He's done it before. He's mostly been a tackle this year, but he's played on the tight end. You've seen him do that. He played a guard at some points in last year, sometimes the year before. So he has some experience going inside and outside.
Second row right, Doug Lane-Reese, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, in your career, what have you found the balance when it comes to revenge? When it comes to a game that you lost and now you're getting another shot, both in the year-long preparation for that and then the feelings of the guys on game day? What's your experience with that? What's the best way to handle it?
Well, I think you can't just get yourself going the week of. You have to build and try to recognize the things that you need to get better at, and then address them, get them fixed, so that when you're there again, you're more prepared for the moment. And that's really the focus of it. And I think you start talking about some of those other things, you can get distracted on what the most important thing is right now. And I think when you're playing an emotional game and a big game like this, the easy thing to do is say, let's just get to Saturday. Let me just get to the game. But we have to utilize every single minute. We have that countdown in our building, and every time a minute clicks off of that, there's one less minute for you to prepare for the game. So let's utilize every single minute we have to get ready to go, kick the ball off at noon so we're ready to roll.
You, in your head coaching career here, Ohio State's lost 4 games. Didn't play Bama again after that. Didn't play Oregon again after that. First game you guys lost, Clemson in that semifinal. You don't know that you're going to play them again, but you do get them the next year, and you guys are ready, and you win that game the second time. Is any of that instructive for this? That was an example of a year later, you get a team that had beaten you the year before, and how you guys handled that?
We haven't talked about that, but that was a different team and a different set of circumstances. But our guys know they felt the pain last year, and it led to simmer, and we had to chew on that for a whole year, and that's a long time. So we'll see what the corrections we've made. We'll see about the growth that we've made, and find out where we're at on Saturday. But I know you're going to get an excited team. But right now the focus has got to be on having an unbelievable week of practice, unbelievable week of preparation with our bodies, our minds, and our souls.
Right in front of him, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, you guys emphasize this game year-round, and you've done it in the past. And a year after a loss, is that something you talk about more, less? Do you do more team up north drills? What's the balance in terms of trying to motivate year-round?
Yeah, there's a balance. I won't get into exactly what we do, but there's a balance there. There's certainly, you need to be reminded of what happened in the past, but also the focus is on this team. The focus is on playing this team against their team on Saturday, because nothing else matters about that. But when you have that in the back of your mind, it certainly lights a fire every time it comes to the forefront of your mind.
Front row right, Tom Taveri, WBNS, 10 TV.
Coach, we imagine the shoe will be rocking. Do you have a message for the fans that'll be in the stadium, and what would it be?
Yeah, just that we need to be as loud as we possibly can. We got to make it a hostile environment. Anytime they have the ball, we got to be as loud as we possibly can. This game has been going along for a lot longer than I've been here, but I know how much it means to so many people, and for all the people that are going to be in the stadium, if their presence can be felt, that helps the Buckeyes.
Right behind him, Clay Hall, WSYS.
Ryan, did you change, other than senior tackle, change any other processes, the way you do your business each week?
No, that was the biggest change. We felt like last year things were a little bit rushed. We'd wake up in the morning, get in here, practice, have senior tackle, and then guys would be able to do their Thanksgiving. We decided to, move that. I know that there's been different, ways that they've done senior tackle here in the past. We decided to move that to really allow our guys to still have the afternoon with their families, but also spend more focused and more time on what really matters, and that's the game.
I know you have a checklist. How do you leave no stone unturned? Is it just plan your work, work your plan?
Not a lot of sleep.
How much will you get this week?
Not much.
Third row right, Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, last week, Teron and Ty both said when they took the field in the spring, they felt a completely different defensive line. Same guys, but they felt completely different. Did you see that at that time? And then if so, what was different about it?
Again, I think our guys had a year under their belts. They played more. They won some games. They lost some games. They learned. They grew. They had a great offseason, and they're a year more mature. I think, that combined with, I think, again, our scheme and those guys embracing the aggressive style of our defense, I think that's where you get that.
When you play young guys like you had to last year, you're going to have growing pains. But seeing the success some of those guys are having right now and the depth that you've been able to add, you don't ever want to lose, but you feel like some of that, I imagine some of that probably helped you guys.
No, I know what you're saying. It's when you're playing young players. We had a very young, but also an inexperienced team. Even the guys who were a little bit older last year hadn't played a whole bunch. There's growing pains with that, as we know, and so you hope that experience is invested time well spent. Because when you have those growing pains and you lose games, hopefully that you can cash in down the road from those learning experiences. We'll find out.
Right next door, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Has Dalton Hayden's play elevated himself to a point where, having him healthy and running with conviction is better than 80-85% of one of these other guys? And not just playing because they can play?
I think it's definitely worth a conversation. Yeah, I think when you start to see and you put on the film and the film speaks for itself, you got to make that decision of who's the best guy in this moment to go put on the field.
Right behind him, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, this game already has a lot of emotions, and you added 11-0 against 11-0, first time here in 4 years. How much do you have to balance with these guys' discipline, but also allowing them to be emotional and play with emotion, but not too emotional so you don't get a cheap personal foul or a penalty that you're going to.
Yeah, I think there's the emotion leading up to the game, which is I think what you're saying, and I think that's why we have to have our routine and not deviate from our routine, because it is such a big week. There's so much emotion involved with it. You have to build towards noon on Saturday, but we have to have a great week of practice and preparation. But then same thing, during the game you have to play with emotion. You can't let emotion play with you. And the three things that we've really spent a lot of time in terms of our identification this year is: 1 is toughness, 2 is discipline, and 3 is skill. And so, if you can play with toughness but you don't have discipline, then it's no good. So those 3 areas are the areas that we have not deviated from all season, and we're going to hold ourselves to that standard.
Deep center, Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals.
Ryan, you guys, have tried all year long to prevent any sort of complacency from stepping in or creeping into the program, but you're 11 games in and haven't completed one of the 3 goals that you set at the preseason, right? So how challenging has this season been, and does it feel like the season really starts now and that this has been the longest preseason in history?
It's when you say it like that, and I'm the one who says it. It can be sobering, but that's just the standard we hold ourselves to. I'm still very, very proud of what how our team's grown and built to this point right here. But we'll talk about that later. What we need to do is, we know these 3 goals were going to happen at the end of the season. If we played this game the first game of the year, then we would have that challenge right then and there. But we know in order to get to the other 2 goals, we have to get this one, and we knew it going in. We knew that's why competitive stamina was a huge theme for us this season. Is you got to bring it every single week as you build and play your best football at the end of the season. So here we are. We've talked about it. It's another thing to do it, and so now we got to go put a great week together and try to accomplish this first goal.
Are you happy with the competitive stamina of the team? Do you feel like you guys are playing the football level you want to be right now?
I think every week you grow and you build and you prepare, and each week is its own season. I just look at it like that. But along the way, you have to continue to grow and enhance, and we'll kind of find out at the end of the season. We'll have a chance to reflect on that. In the meantime, we're just going to work as hard as we can to get as prepared as possible to play this game on Saturday.
Fourth row right, Bill Bender, the Sporting News.
Coach, you guys haven't lost a Big Ten home game since 2015, and you mentioned the 100th year of the stadium. What to you, other than having a really good team, makes Ohio Stadium such a good home field advantage, especially in these Big Ten games? It showed up this year too. They haven't been close.
Well, first off, we have the best fans in the land. Our guys enjoy playing in our stadium. I think, it's a hostile environment. I think it's a hard place to play in, and I think that, our guys really enjoy being here, and I think anytime you have all those things mixed up into one, then that's why you have what you have. So, and it's been a while since we played this game at home. I think what you said was, I guess 4 years. Yeah. So, and that's part of, what every Ohioan and person part of Buckeye Nation, wants to be a part of this game at home in the shoe. So, I know it's going to be an electric atmosphere.
Second row left, Stephen Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, just assessing the offensive line, it seemed the first half you guys had real problems getting the running game going the way that you wanted to. In the second half, with Dallin Hayden running behind the same offensive line, things worked out much better. Just how did you assess their play over the entire 4 quarters, and are they ready for this challenge this week, I guess?
I after watching the film, we had several guys grade out champions. I thought some guys played very well in the game. I think Maryland did a good job. They played really hard. They challenged, but I thought we got a little bit more rhythm, like you said, in the second half. I think a little bit of that was just blocking it a little bit cleaner. But I also thought that we hit the hole a little bit better as the game went on.
Right next door, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
I don't want to word this right here. I don't know how much you pay attention to what other programs say, what other people have said outside of this program, but you've emphasized toughness a lot this season, maybe more than any other season you've had. You guys have some of the leadership stuff in the summer, in the off season, 2 leadership groups, and things were said after that Michigan game coming out of that program from coaches. How much of that were you aware of, and how much of that has been on your program's mind this off season as you guys have kind of pushed some of the stuff, the leadership and the toughness stuff,
Sure.
and now you've approached things this season?
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing in a game like this, there's always going to be, back and forth and things said, and obviously you see things and read things, but there's also a lot of it you try to ignore. But sometimes it matters, who says it too, and how much, consideration you give it. But at the end of the day, we got beat in that game, and we had to figure out why that was. A lot of people have opinions when you lose a game, and we had to identify what was real and what wasn't, and try to go from there. But we certainly don't get caught up in other people's opinions. We cherish ours and try to make great decisions on how to move forward, and that's what we did.
Far right, Adam James, WBNS, NTD.
When you go off the loss of last year and the bulletin board stuff and all of that, how tough can it be to rein in the emotions this week and make sure that you're not making this game bigger than it actually needs to be?
I think that's the balance you try to find. Yeah, is that it is extremely emotional, but you also have to go do a job and play a game. And if you get over emotional or you get too caught up in all that, then you can start to act out of character, and that can't happen. But we also know what's at stake. So there is a fine line there that we are going to find.
Front row, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Your 2 predecessors made their reputation in part on success in this game. You're 1-1. How much pressure do you feel personally, not just to coach to win this game? I mean, how much pressure do you feel?
I mean, I think anytime you're here and you're playing in this game, you're going to feel it. Doesn't matter, what your record's been. You feel it anytime you're, at Ohio State, because you know what's on the line. But, we're not going to sit here and start to think about all that. We're going to just really focus on, having a great week of preparation and playing really, really hard. And then, when it's all said and done, we'll look back and kind of see, where all the tally marks are. But to me, this has nothing to do with anything other than this team and just preparing this team to play as hard as we possibly can on Saturday and then going from there.
If you win, do you think it'll be more joy or relief?
I don't know. Maybe, after the game we can kind of figure out where we're at again, and try to discuss that. But I'm just trying to focus on figuring out what to call on first, second down, third down, short yardage, goal line. And, because I think you can start to think about all those things like you're saying, which I think are all really valid questions. But it's like, what really matters right now? What matters is getting these guys a really good game plan, getting practice organized, and having a really good day. And that's what I'm going to focus on right now. And then we'll come up for air, on Saturday afternoon after the game.
Final questions, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Oh, thank you very much, Jerry. By the way, congratulations on that Buckeye leaf. When somebody says you're born on third base and think you hit a triple, where does that sit with you in insults you've endured during your career?
yeah, I'm not going to talk about it right now. Maybe there's another time to hit on that. But like I said, there's certain things you listen to, there's certain things you don't. And anytime you're at a high profile game with a lot of stuff going on, there's a lot of things said. But there's a time and a place to talk about that, and it's not now.
Toughness is the word this week. It was taken into question last year after this game and stuff. Toughness of this football team. You've addressed that through the season and stuff. What has told you that this team is tough now, tough enough, so to speak? Obviously, the ultimate test comes Saturday, but and I'm looking at y'all. Y'all have had at least 3 games go into the fourth quarter up in the air, and y'all won those games. That's as much a sign of toughness, I would think, as anything else. But what just tells you you've got a tough football team?
Well, when you talk to other coaches after the game, and just what do you think? And you get a lot of great feedback in that area. And you guys are playing hard, you're playing tough, you're playing physical. Guys are disciplined, they're where they're supposed to be, they're well coached. You hear all those things over and over again, and that just means that we've done it. So we wanted to make it our identity. I think we've built that as the season's gone on, and but all that building was to get to right here.
But as a coach, you'd rather a game already be done at halftime, I would think. You know what I mean? But what does that, in retrospect, having to win games in the fourth quarter, do for a team from a standpoint of confidence, whatever you want to call it?
Well, it builds resilience. It builds that toughness. It builds that perseverance. That no matter what happens in the game, it's not going to go perfect. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep growing. You got to keep building. And your backs are up against the wall. What are you going to do? And we felt that a little bit here. Certainly the Rose Bowl was kind of the one there. We started to turn it a little bit, and then the Notre Dame game, and then the Penn State game, and even last week. So, that resilience has been tested. And again, all these were trial runs for right now.
I goofed up. One last question. Bill Landis, rivals.
Brian, you saw, Chris Olave in this game at 18 as a true freshman make a real impact. I know Dallin has a larger body of work at this point than Chris did then, but what are the conversations like when you're trying to decide whether or not a relatively inexperienced true freshman can handle a spot like this?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I think I mentioned that earlier, was that the blueprint's already there for guys like that, whether it was, Marvin and Emeka in the Rose Bowl, or, Garrett Wilson, back in 19, had a huge game there. Olave in 18, guys kind of build, and then hopefully you can count on them late in the season. So, we'll see. I think the number one job for Dallin is you got to take care of the football. That's the number one thing. Anytime we hand you the football, you got to take care of that, because turnovers are going to be huge in a game like this. So he's going to keep preparing and keep growing and keep building this week. And, you never quite are prepared, for a moment like this until you actually get in it, and I know because of, the way the game went in 17, when JT went down in the first, or had the knee, and, before the game even started, and Dwayne went in the game. So, but at the end of the day, I think like we talked about, it comes down to your preparation. You got to trust all your preparation up to this point, and focus on just having a great week of practice.
Coach, thank you very much.
Sure. Again, thanks for joining us today. Happy early Thanksgiving to you guys and your families. Kind of like you guys, we're adjusting our schedule a little bit this week for our guys to be able to, number one, get us prepared for the opportunity we have this weekend against Rutgers here at the Shell, but also, because of Thanksgiving and families coming in town, as well as honoring our 18 seniors or players that have exhausted their eligibility here. There's a lot of other things that are important, and so we'll adjust our schedule a little this week, and because school is canceled on Wednesday, we'll go earlier to give our guys time to handle the things they need to get handled properly, and also spend some extra time with their families. We'll go in the morning Wednesday and Thursday, which allows our players to get home for Thanksgiving, and then back in here Friday to recalibrate and get our minds on a big-time opponent coming in Rutgers. They're a good team. You look at Rutgers, top 30 on defense nationally in the passing game and total defense. I have a lot of respect for the job Greg Schiano does as a coach. I've known him a long time. He's one of those guys that has gone in and fixed programs and has had great success. And when you look at the way he's building the foundation there at Rutgers, you certainly can see it with the way they play. Really strong special teams. I know they lead the Big Ten in block punts or block kicks. And I'm sure he'll have his team ready to finish the season the right way. To recap last week's game against Ohio State, obviously, as I talked about in our press conference, was proud of the fight that our team showed against a top team in our country, not just in our league. But we didn't make enough plays when we needed to make to seize the opportunities that presented us, and to me, that's the next step. When you look at kind of our season in a nutshell, we've played the two of the top teams in the country really strongly, and it shows me that the progress is there. What's missing is the consistency, and that's on me as a leader to get our players to understand that the standard is the standard, and that everyone we play should be a faceless, nameless opponent, and get us to where we can play consistently that way like we played on Saturday. And so we've got the right guys in the locker room leading us. As I've said, this is a player-led culture team, and I like the way they responded after two tough outings against a really good team in Ohio State. Obviously, Saturday is senior day, as I said earlier. 18 guys that have laid a foundation for our program. This is a special group to me. Some have been here for a year. Others have been here from the time I got here, and there are a few that were here prior to me coming here. But each one of them has made an impact on our program that I think will be beneficial for us as we move forward, with the best obviously being ahead for our program. And these guys played a major role in jump-starting the turnaround, as well as laying the culture, the foundation of the type of culture we need to have to be successful here at the University of Maryland. So our captains for this week is our Dante Demas, Talia Tungavailoa, and then Jacorian Bennett will serve as our game captains going into Rutgers. And with that, I'll open up to any questions you guys may have.
Mike, first off, how's Talia's knee, and how, if you could expand on how he bounced back from back-to-back weeks at Wisconsin and Penn State to have the day that he had against Ohio State?
Yeah, his knee is good. He practiced yesterday. Again, he's a tough kid. He's taken some shots here the last couple of weeks, but he's healthy. He'll be available to play for us. In terms of how he bounced back, I was really happy to see him bounce back the way he did. I'm not surprised because of the type of week he had going into it. Prior to that, obviously there were we had issues up front on both sides of the ball, O-line and D-line, and as we've talked about, to win in the Big Ten in November, it starts with the trenches and being really sound and fundamentally sound, as well as being able to execute. And for the last couple of weeks up to the Ohio State game, we struggled, and for our quarterback, it's really important that we give him the best opportunity to be successful. It's giving him a clean pocket. It's allowing him to keep his eyes down the field and not look at the rush. And I saw how he prepared a week ago. I saw that he had that look in his eye. He was disappointed, not just in how he's played, but as a leader of our program, how we played. And I was really happy to see the way he bounced back and played probably one of his better games against Ohio State.
Hey, Michael, how do you put this season in perspective, considering bowl eligibility really early, last 3 weeks maybe haven't gone as according to plan?
It's hard to put everything into perspective just yet because we've got one left, so I'll try to avoid doing that. I can tell you that our goal is to take the next step. Being bowl eligible should be part of the foundation of what this program's about. The next step is to play championship level football. I think we're close. We're not there yet. I think we're close. And what needs to happen is the consistency that's necessary, not just when you play top teams in our league, but every team, because as we found, every Saturday in the Big Ten will be a challenge. And I think our players understand it, but it's up to me and the leadership I provide to get them to go out and get it done. And that's what we need to work on.
Hi, Coach. For those 18 guys that you mentioned that will have this Saturday their last game in College Park, are there things that you talk about, special things that you say to them during this week?
No, you know what? We don't, because we still have some season left. What we talk about is sending them out the right way, because this group is a special group and that they've played a major role in the turnaround that we've started here. Again, we're not there yet, but they've played a major role in solidifying the foundation for us to build on. And so is it time to give them their flowers this week? Probably not. We'll probably stay in their butts a little bit about preparing the right way to go finish the season strong, as every part of our program is built upon how we finish. And this is the opportunity to finish the regular season but then we still have one opportunity post this game. And so it's a special group. We'll recognize them as we should and their families for the hard work they put into helping us get this program heading in the right direction, but there's still work to be done.
And Rutgers, you've finished the season at least the last 2 years. Do you see that sort of becoming a rivalry? And, last year, if I remember, the winner of that game was going to be going to a bowl. And so does Rutgers come in maybe with a little edge?
Well, I don't know if either of us have an edge coming into the game. As we talked about, anytime you show up on a Saturday in the Big Ten, you better bring your work ethic and you better bring your hard hat and go out and execute, because anything can happen. So many times we want to make things rivalries, and again, that's not something a coach can do. We don't establish rivalries. Rivalries are forged over time, battles, whether it's in recruiting, battles, whether on the field. I can tell you, since I've been back here, I know in 2014, I can remember us being up 28 points and have them storm back with Ralph Friedgen as their offensive coordinator winning the game. 2015, we go up there. They're up ahead. We come back to win the game, which gave us our first win, or my first win as a head coach, as an interim coach here at Maryland. And then, 2020, we've had the pandemic, a late field goal, extra point, whatever it was, to win the game. They've been battles, and our players understand that this is not going to be an easy task. Again, the respect I have for Greg and the type of coach he is, he's a professional. His team plays hard. I'm sure the same things I preach, he's preaching in terms of finishing the season the right way. So I don't think anyone has an edge, and when it comes to rivalries, that's something that time will tell. You guys can make it out to be. For us, they're a common opponent that's in our side of our division. They're close proximity to campus. They recruit here, we recruit there. There's going to be some natural things that come along, but that's not for us to decide. That'll happen organically, I guess.
Going back to Leah, I know he cares just about the result, but to see the way he played on such a big stage the other day, how have you seen his ability to kind of handle those big moments grow and change through the past 3 years? Can you notice any difference in him?
I think Leah has a comfort level in our program now. Obviously, his maturity has really shown throughout his time here. Some of the things he's been able to get accomplished during his time here has just been great for our program. Proud of the type of leader he's become. I still think he has a lot of good football left in him and ahead of him, and I think that you'll only see him continue to grow and get better as our program does the same thing. So he's definitely, I've seen tons of improvement from him. The football piece is something he's always been pretty good at. I mean, you look at his track record out of high school, heavily recruited guy, has ability, great pedigree, and I think he's been a breath of fresh air for our program and what he's been able to bring.
Hey, Mike. I wanted to ask about Jacorian Bennett. He had a pretty solid game against Ohio State. I believe he held Marvin Harrison Jr. to, I believe, seven receiving yards on like one reception. I was wondering, how do you think he did against one of the better receiving corps you guys faced this year?
I've been all year long, our corners are probably guys that don't get a lot of notoriety other than when they throw flags for pass interference. And I can tell you that, every flag that's been thrown has not necessarily been pass interference. One of the toughest jobs on the football field is playing on the island. And both Jacorian and Deontay and Tarheeb, especially in this league, I think have performed at a really high level. As far as Jacorian, I mean, not surprising. This kid works at it. From the time he got here as a JUCO transfer a couple of years ago, then coming back to play a COVID year to give himself the best opportunity to create value for himself. He's a competitor. Obviously, we knew and understood what we were getting with the receivers at Ohio State, one of the talented groups or more talented groups in the country. He rose to the occasion. I think it was a collective effort. I just, it's not just him. I know that Deontay spent time on him, but that group came and competed, and they really fought, and that's what I wanted to see out of our team. So I was glad to see Jacorian, Deontay, Tarheeb all play the way they played a week ago.
Sticking with Jacorian, I just want to ask, what has he mean? What has he mean to the program this year? And you just mentioned could you expand on how he has created value for himself during his time in College Park?
Yeah, I think, going into the end of last season, he had opportunities to turn pro. And I think the feedback we got back was that he probably would be a mid to late round draft pick. Well, he's been invited to the Senior Bowl, which if you look at the tradition of going to the Senior Bowl, most guys that play in that game are first 3 rounds, first 4 round type of guys. So he's created that value to where he's has a whole nother year body of work for NFL people to evaluate him against some of the best in the country. The other thing that I think he's done for our program is the leadership that he's provided. Coming in as a quiet, kind of a selfless guy, I've seen him take major steps into becoming one of the loud voices in the locker room that's not afraid to call out a teammate or himself when not performing at the standard that we create for our program. And so tons of value. He's earned a degree from the University of Maryland. He's played great football, which I think will translate to Sundays and him having opportunities on Sunday, but also being a part of putting down the foundation that we'll be able to build upon.
Hey, Coach. Happy early Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
Wanted to ask, where did you feel you saw the biggest difference in your team between the 2 games against Penn State and Wisconsin and then last week against Ohio State?
The way we stood up and competed, the way we fought.
And then what does it mean to have that kind of performance and to see, an uptick in the way that you guys played before you played these last 2 games of the season?
A little frustrating because it's what I've come to expect from this team. As I said, the Wisconsin game kind of is on me as a leader because I didn't prepare us to go play in the type of wind, weather that we got there. And so for me as a leader, it's my job to get them ready to play. The Penn State game was one that I just felt we got out toughed, and I've said that before. We got punched in the mouth and didn't respond. Can't tell you why. I mean, we're still trying to figure it out, but one of the things that comes along with building a championship mindset is consistency. And we've shown some consistency in how we've played the Michigans and Ohio States of the world. The inconsistency is the thing that really bothers me because I don't see us as a team that is a front-running team, meaning we only play well when we're going up against the best. I think we respect all of our opponents, and so that's something for us to take the next step. That is what it will be about.
And Michael, when you mentioned this consistency aspect, how do you get there? What does it look like week to week?
It comes from within, and it comes with what you saw, how we played Michigan and Ohio State. A bunch of players taking accountability for their actions, leaders like myself and our coaching staff taking responsibility for putting them in the right situations and challenging them to. But it's a matter of just it usually happens from within, and that's what I talked about a week ago, that I was glad to see our players respond when I asked that question, where are we as a program? And to me, that was a huge, huge step for us.
You've talked on multiple occasions about the senior class kind of laying the foundation. Does this year in particular hold any special value to you, seeing that this is the first class, at least here at Maryland, that you've seen all the way from high school, freshman, all the way to senior under your?
Well, that's not that class just yet. We've got some guys that are part of that are going out that were here that I inherited, and they've become mine. So it's like when you have kids, they all are special in their own kind of way. I know every year I come up here, I'm sure I'll say this class is really special because it really is. And when you have kids, they all are different, but you love them all the same. And so this class definitely, some of them are guys that came in with me 4 years ago and are leaving, but there are a bunch that I inherited that have put as much joy into me in terms of how they've accepted me and the things that we've brought to this program to get it where it is today.
Coach, Saturday, you had a lot of high school recruits sitting in one section, and some of which I recognize from being on the field at a lot of the high school games. Any feedback on how they took that, what would be a national broadcast game, and how they took a reaction, positive, negative, against the Terps?
We've talked to recruits all week long like we do. The feedback has been obviously positive in that they like the way that we competed. They like the environment that was created in the shell with what we brought and with what Ohio State brings to the table. I think we have been in this position, the vision that we've sold in recruiting. I think they see it coming to fruition. Not there yet, but as we've told each player that we're recruiting here, we're recruiting you to come help us create and build a championship team. And I think the kids in this area and the kids that have shown interest in our program, we identify them as the type that aren't afraid to make decisions when they can go anywhere in the country to come play for Maryland and be a part of building something. It takes a special kind of kid. We got a lot of special kids in this area that believe in it and that have a lot of confidence in themselves. And you saw a bunch of those guys making plays for us on Saturday.
And Mike, it's supposed to be 56 degrees Thursday. Will that affect your game plan for Thanksgiving dinner? Do you script the first 20 bites? Do you look at film for previous years? And which sides of the Locksley household merit double coverage?
Well, I meal prepped for Thanksgiving this year. I anticipated that as the season goes on, I typically stress and I start out skinny and I end up a little robust. And so with the meal prep that I put into it, I've got the cassava smoothie. I've got kind of the almonds there to kind of keep me going throughout the day. Plan on being very disciplined Thursday. Maybe hit a 2-minute drill at the end of the night as I put things away. But, this week is all about sacrifices, and our team and myself have to make sacrifices in terms of very thankful for the time and the fellowship we'll get to spend with each other, but we've got work to do Saturday.
Will you be having any players over? I know in the past Rich had some guys over.
Yeah, we always do. We obviously, a lot of our guys are from this area. Most kids that are within a 2-hour drive, we allow them to go home. We'll be done by noon on Thursday. If they're not, the coaches all have kids that will come to their homes. We also have created a mentorship program here where our players have developed strong relationships with business leaders in this area that have become pseudo-family. And so I know a bunch of the mentors have taken kids in, and then I'll have my house open to any and all. I'm going with the almonds. I'm strictly almonds, man. I'm showing some discipline and restraint this year, Dave. Thanks, guys.
All right, how y'all doing this morning? I want to just say happy Thanksgiving to everybody in this room and everybody through the state of Nebraska and all the Cornhusker fans across the country. I want to say congratulations to all the high schools that made it to the state games. Had a nice crowd, a big, busy stadium today. Well, we got one mission left, one game. And I expect and I know our boys to come out and give full effort this last game. A lot of pride. Last game playing with some of their brothers. So I expect them to come out and play tough and be resilient through the whole game. Questions?
Is there anything about Iowa's offense, its run game, that's different from the last 4 games that you played that you see that'll be different, or is this basically a similar team to the last 4 games?
This is similar. I think this side of the conference is similar. I think that you're going to see big linemen. You're going to see they're going to run the ball and manage the clock and play good defense.
What jumps out to you about what makes that defense so effective? Over several years, really, they just strive it to all that.
Well, if you look at their defense, if you look at the starting 22, there's not one transfer in there. So they all been raised through the program. What I've been saying in these press conferences, you got to keep them in a program. That coach has kept them in a program. So those kids been in the system 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they hadn't changed their system. So that's why it makes a good defense, because they don't make mistakes. They line up right, and they don't bust coverages. They don't miss gaps. They don't make mistakes.
Have you been able to, talking about keeping guys in the program, you're trying to prepare for games, but have you been able to try to recruit the roster somewhat through conversation, or how is that a difficult thing to do in season? Or
not right now, not till this picture clears up a little bit. One thing I'm going to be able to control is getting this team ready to play for Iowa. Now after Iowa, then we got to, some decisions going to have to be made. But right now, I'm just going to control what I can control.
what is the plan for that? Like after the game, then what?
I'm going to be on my couch until I get a phone call. Okay? I'm going to be real with you. be on my couch. I mean, I'm going to coach him up until Friday. Then Saturday, I'm going to spend all day with the family. Then Sunday, I'll probably come in here and get some things done. But until I hear anything, you know, everybody's going to kind of just take some time away.
What has the last 2.5 months just meant to you to have the opportunity to be the head coach?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what have you learned about yourself? What's maybe been the most enjoyable thing, the hardest thing, those things?
Well, you know, just the most enjoyable thing is the kids and the coaches, and just the joy of coming back to Lincoln, coming back to the University of Nebraska, and having this opportunity to lead this program. And I think the toughest thing is that we hadn't been able to get it done and finish the way I wanted with wins. That's been the toughest thing. But I wouldn't trade these memories for anything right now. You know, I'm sure the kids feel the same way right now because we really connected.
What are one or two or three things learned through this process? Is there anything in particular?
I learned to stay off of Twitter. It's the first thing you learn, okay? Second thing I learned, you know, that you have to adapt to the conference. And your team's got to kind of look like the team that you play every week. And you have to surround yourself with people that understand or see it through your eyes and see it from the balcony and not the basement. You understand what I'm saying? It's not hard, but just learning things like that and learning the ups and downs of a head coach. You know, everybody say when your head coach is lonely. Well, I really don't get lonely because everybody's tugging at you. So you really don't get lonely. You're lonely because you want to be lonely. You know, and I'm not that type of person, and I was able to do it my way. I was able to keep it real. Not one time did I say, next question to you guys. Not that I'm being respectful to you guys. So, and that's the way I was raised, and that's where I've always been. So I really enjoyed this.
Why do you stay off Twitter?
Because some of these dudes on Twitter, they should worry about their own jobs. Not my job. Not my job, because they're not going to make any decisions. But it's funny, some of the things they say, and it was best that when I took over, everybody said, oh, stay off of Twitter. That's my brother Vance told me the first thing, hey, shut social media down, stay off it. And I don't think he ever had it, you know. So it was cool.
Mickey, talking about just doing things your own way, I mean, how do you think you set foundation for this program going forward, if you do think?
Well, I think they're better now than when I found them. I think they're a better team. They're a more confident team. They hadn't gotten the wins, but I think they're better people right now. I think they can see the growth in themselves, and I can see the growth in them. And I think that they know that you can build something here. They know we're a couple of pieces away because we don't play some close games, and when we come back on Sunday, we identify what happened. So we know we're a couple of pieces away that we need to get up in here to help us get over that hump.
What was your level of concern with where the team was when you took it over on September 11th?
Well, just the overall attitude, and they want to. And so we attacked that, and attacked it that we're gonna do it together. And I think it was more of not them meeting me on my side of the table and not meeting on their side of the table, that we meet in the middle, because that's what men do. We meet in the middle, we agree to disagree. And I think they understood that. And I also think that I was easier to approach, that you were able to sit down with me and I was able to say, oh yeah, I was wrong with that. I shouldn't have did it that way. And I think they understand that, because like I say, you're dealing with the why generation. If you say, hey, knock down that wall, they're gonna ask why. And the only thing I ask you to do is what? Knock down that wall, you know? So knock on the wall, knock down it, but they're gonna ask why. So you gotta have an answer for them. They're different, you know, and they need to have your arm around them a lot, you know, and I think they understand that I do care about them.
Would you say that you work well with Bush? Why is that part working well? And why did you want him as that role?
Because we worked together at LSU, and I knew that we played good defense at LSU, and I know we didn't do a lot, but we were sound in the scheme wise what we were doing, and I know he would do the things that I wanted to do on defense, you know, with the tight front and playing some zone coverage and mixing it up and sending some blitzes and, you know, and quiet down, sending heat, you know. So I understood that. And the thing about me, Bush and I worked together for a couple of years, so we was able to share notes and compete against each other, and I know he was going to compete. And I know if I was wrong with something, that he was going to walk in my office and say, hey, I think we should do it this way. And if I say, no, we need to do it that way, then he would have jumped on board and did it. But he wouldn't let me just do, something that didn't make sense. And that's why I appreciate Bill Bush.
Maybe updating from last week, have you had any conversations with Trev about your future here?
No, I think that's probably over the weekend or next week sometime.
You talked about kind of meeting in the middle with the players and being the Y generation. How much of that had to also occur between the coaching staff?
Well, it's the same thing with them. I let you coach your position. I'm not a guy that going to come in your position room and just take over. So you let them coach their position, and you watch their position. Then you evaluate them. But if you see something wrong, then you bring it to their attention. You don't beat them with the pen. So that's meeting in the middle.
Hey Mick, what does this rivalry mean to you, and how do you play with the boys that they have a real opportunity to go after and get a meaningful plan here today?
Yeah, they can be the spoiler. Yeah, we talked about that. I think it's the next game, and I know it's a rival game, so I know they're going to be up for it. They're going to be up for it. They're going to come out and play in full force this game.
I know it hasn't gone how you've wanted up front, but what can you say, I guess, about Donovan Riley taking on kind of a tough assignment with some injuries that have popped up and stuff, and just as a younger coach in some respects working through this year?
I think Donnie's going to be okay. Donnie, it's football. It's going to have injuries, and you got to coach through it. But I thought Donnie's did a great job with that offensive line this year of piecing it together, because he's missing a couple of pieces. But I think those guys up front, they came out every practice and every game, and they gave everything that they had, and that's all you can ask.
I feel like you guys have done just from a penalty standpoint, and what's your general approach in limiting flags?
Well, you have the refs in practice, and you talk to them about it. If you think you see it, throw it, and you try to get your kids to not have pre-snap penalties. That's what hurts you. The pre-snap penalties hurt us. I mean, if it's a holding call, pass interference, that's an aggressive call. But the pre-snap penalties hold you, jumping off sides, lining up off sides, things of that sort.
Hey, Mickey, what are your feelings about the 10 guys on staff you've coached with all this season, and especially the way that they've operated over the past 2.5 months with the uncertainty that's existed?
They've been great. They've been giving everything they had when they come into the office. I'm sure they got to, take care of business and make phone calls, but they've been very professional throughout the time that I've taken over, and you really appreciate that from them.
How does Casey work?
Casey threw the ball better today. He was a little rusty last week, but today I thought he really threw the ball well today.
Have you had any conversations with Casey about his future at Nebraska, future in college football, or are you waiting until after?
No, we hadn't. The only thing Casey and I had talked about is him. He's going to graduate. He's going to get his master's in December, and I was congratulating him on that. But it's not going to be my decision about these kids' future. They're going to make the decision with their family. Casey comes from a strong family, family that understands the business, so they'll make the best decision. But Casey wants to stay here at the University of Nebraska.
You were so instrumental in getting him here. Do you feel more connected with Casey than a lot of your other players you've had?
No, I feel connected with all of them. I just been knowing Casey a little longer, just like Trey. But I love all my players. I connect with all of them.
What would your message be to your players, about after the game, how they approach that?
Well, I think the message to them is like, let's sit back and wait and see until we hear anything. And once we hear something, then we'll act on it. But right now, everybody go get away and relax and clear your mind. And then if you get a phone call, show up.
Take one or two more.
Hey, Mick, back to Iowa's defense, 31, Jack Campbell has been outstanding. What does he jump out on tape at you?
He does everything well. He plays the run well, plays the pass well. He gets them lined up. He's a really good football player,
Anything else, guys?
Hey, Mickey, Quentin just talked in the hallway about his growth as a leader over the course of the season. What have you seen from him in that area?
He was very quiet when I first arrived in December, but as the months went on, he's gotten better and more vocal as a leader. So I'm happy where Quentin's at right now.
Hey, Mick, I know you prioritized strengthening relationships around the state in your time as interim coach in recruiting, and you can't comment on the individuals, but as these championship games are going and last night, the level of play that we saw on the field, what do you think about the importance for Nebraska to continue to do that in the future and prioritize those kinds of kids?
I think when you look at the kid and you know he's a no-brainer, don't dance around it and pull the trigger on him and keep him here and make sure that you keep all the good players here in the state of Nebraska.
All good.
Thank you.
Coach?
Like always, appreciate everybody coming out and covering Penn State football. Hope everybody has a great holiday season, which is coming up. Able to spend some time with your friends and family. You know, kind of reviewing the Rutgers game, the turnover battle, we were able to win that. The penalty battle, we had the same number of penalties, but had more yards, so we didn't win that one. Drive start battle, we did not win, but the sack battle we did. The explosive play battle we did. So some positives there. Obviously, some areas we got to get cleaned up. Players of the game. On offense, winner Katron Allen was also the Big Ten co-freshman of the week. Defensively, Curtis Jacobs and Abdul Carter. And then on special teams, Nicholas Singleton. So awesome for those guys, making an impact in the program and in the game. Some positives, I thought we played really good complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams, which was good to see. One of the things that I'm most proud of is we're getting better each week. Best teams in college football get better individually and collectively throughout the season. We're doing that. Some pretty cool stats. 16 different players with sacks this season. I've never seen that stat before. In my career, 26 different players with a tackle for a loss this season, which is also a stat that I've never really seen. The kickoff return for a touchdown was just an awesome thing to see. We've worked really hard and invested a ton of time in that. So for the players and for Coach Stacy and Coach Raisbeck to have some success there, that was great to see. 3 non-offensive touchdowns, first time since 1998. And then we were able to get 65 players in the game. Every defensive player that was on the bus to Rutgers played in the game. So that was really cool. Areas for growth, starting fast, that's coaches and players. Third down on offense, that's an area that would have a huge impact on our team as a whole. We got to get better there. And then ball security, ball security, ball security. You can't coach it enough. You can't talk about it enough. And, really that was an example of not the traditional things you talk about with ball security with the ball not being secured tight. That was not the case. The ball was secured tight, but part of ball security is also pad level. And you can't allow a defender to put his helmet right on the ball. You got to get your pads down. So we'll continue to work on that. This week with Michigan State and Coach Tucker, who I've known for a long time and got a lot of respect for. Obviously, going to be a challenge coming into our place, playing for maybe the most beautiful trophy game in all of college football. If you guys haven't seen it, or anybody that's listening to this hasn't seen it, look it up. The Land Grant Trophy is just a sight to be seen. It is just beauty, beautiful. Offensive coordinator Jay Johnson, his third season as the offensive coordinator at Michigan State. Guys, that we're pretty, impressed with is Jalen Berger, the running back we recruited out of New Jersey. Keon Coleman, wide receiver. Jalen Reed, wide receiver. Tight end Daniel Barker. Their center, Nick Samak. And then their quarterback, Peyton Thorne, who seems like he's been playing there forever as well. Also, interesting fact, I don't know if you guys know this, Jaden Reed, Peyton Thorne, and Bryce Effner are all high school teammates. Defensively, Scotty Hazelton, third year there. One of the things that was interesting kind of came up in our breakdown. This is the first defensive coordinator that we play this year that was at in that same role the previous year, which is somewhat of a disturbing stat in our profession. But we have some familiarity with him. Guys in that defense that we have a ton of respect for. Linebacker number 27, Cal Halliday, who's a local kid. Defensive tackle, number 64, Jacob Slade. Free safety, number 3, Xavier Henderson. And then defensive end / linebacker, number 4, Jacoby Windman, transfer from UNLV. Then on special teams, Coach Els, again, another guy, been there for 3 years. They're 3 coordinators. Their punter seems like week after week. This league, if you look at all the statistics, this league plays great defense. It's amazing. You may be 6th in the conference and like 12th in the country in defense, and then it's the same thing with punters. We seem to have great defenses in our league, and then also great punters. Last week I thought the punter was excellent, and this guy is leading the nation in punt average. Number 99, Bryce Barringer, a local kid out of Michigan, local to them. And then their punt returner, Jaden Reed, obviously has been a playmaker. He's got 2 career punt returns for touchdowns at Michigan State. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge. We're excited about the opportunity. And obviously today's practice and this week's preparation will be really important. So open up the questions.
Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle, and then we'll go to Mark Wogenrich. Rich?
Hey,
James, how are you today?
Hey, Rich, I think I know what's coming.
Do you want to answer before I ask?
No, I'll let you ask first because I could be wrong.
Okay. Can you update the status of Parker Washington, Olu Fashanu, and Joey Porter Jr.?
Yeah, so that's part of what I thought you were going to ask, not all of it. But yeah, Parker Washington, like I typically do, Parker will be done for the season. I did have that conversation with him and his mom. So I wanted to make sure I covered that, with them first to make sure everybody was comfortable with it. Olu Fashanu, we expect back. When that is, we'll see. Hopefully this weekend, we'll see how that plays out. And same thing with Joey Porter.
Mark Wogenrich, all Penn State, and then Frank Bodani.
James, just following up on Parker Washington, do you expect him back then for next season? Is that something you've had a discussion with him about that now?
Yeah, as you know, Mark, I'd really like to talk about, this year. We're having conversations, ongoing conversations with the players. Hunter's dad wanted to make an announcement of what his intentions were. That's up to him. But we have conversations that are going on, and I'm happy to talk about this week, and then obviously we always get together, or typically get together after the season is over, and we'll have an opportunity to be able to address those things in more detail. And to be honest with you, I'm not even avoiding the question, Mark. Not all of those conversations and decisions have been made yet.
Frank Bodani, York Daily Record, then Mike Gross.
Hey, James, happy Thanksgiving week.
You as well, Frank.
Sean Clifford.
Turkey or ham?
I knew that was coming. Turkey, always.
I agree.
Sorry. So
sweet potatoes or yams?
Sweet potatoes and sweet potato pie is by far the best.
That was going to be my next question. Pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie? It's not even close.
My grandmother, my wife, makes great sweet potato pie. We'll have to have you try it.
I was going to say, are they local?
Yeah, York, PA.
I would be very appreciative and thankful if I could try your family's sweet potato pie.
We'll surprise you.
Appreciate it. Okay, Frank, back to business.
All right. Sean Clifford, you worked with a lot of quarterbacks over your time. Maybe one unique thing about Sean that will stick with you, and what do you appreciate the most about him?
Yeah, probably his perseverance, through good, through bad, through praise, through criticism. And probably the other thing that probably jumps out to me is he has maximized this Penn State experience in a way that I hope more of our guys do. We do a guest coach program where we bring professors and donors to games so they can kind of get an opportunity to peek behind the curtain. And I always tell our guys to introduce themselves. And Sean's over at the table last week exchanging phone numbers with those people. So he's preparing for life after football whenever that happens. Next week he'll get another degree from Penn State. He's done a great job from that perspective and has just handled it all, I think, with class. And I think he has learned and grown and evolved kind of during his time here. But I think probably the biggest word for me is with him is perseverance. That's probably the word I would describe, probably describes him best, throughout his Penn State experience. And I mean that from a positive perspective. Some people may interpret that differently, but I think that's one of the most important traits that we can all have.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers, and then Donnie Collins.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. We all know that Frank is the foremost foodie among us, but it sounds like you know that too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It just when he hit me with the happy holidays and those types of things, I was curious to ask. What about you? I'm only going to go one. I'm not going to go any further than this, but mashed potatoes or macaroni and cheese?
Oh my God, mashed potatoes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but specifically for Thanksgiving, maybe not all year round, but
okay.
Anyway. Okay. Alan Zamitis tweeted the other day that he's never seen anything like the energy in your building right now. Is this group a little unusual in that respect? And is that in any way an explanation for how the way you guys have been able to bring it every single week when we saw so many teams in college football last week maybe come up a little short in that area?
Yeah, I didn't know that and I didn't see that. I'd like to talk to AZ about that, because I'm curious, is he basing that off just his time now back as a professional? Is he also including his time as a student athlete? So I'll be interested in asking him that. But I do think we got good energy. I do think we got good mojo about us right now. It's late in the season. It's a long season, and there's times where late in the season, can be challenging and a grind on everybody, and it just doesn't feel like that. Even with bumps and bruises like we got, and we have a bunch of them, the energy's really good. Energy's really good. Guys are having fun in the locker room. Guys are having fun out at practice every single day in the meetings room. And I'm not saying that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's all, puppies and rainbows and that kind of stuff. There's tough coaching going on. There's accountability going on. But I think overall we're in a good place. I think our leadership has been as good as it's been in a while. We meet on Sundays every Sunday, which has been really good. We meet with the captains every Sunday, even if it's just for 5 minutes. I want to hear what their thoughts are going into the week. I want them to hear mine, kind of what the message is going to be all week long. And Terry Smith comes to those meetings all the time as the assistant head coach. And Terry, he made the comment. I go around the room and see if anybody else got anything. And Terry made the comment. He goes, as a former captain at Penn State and now being here 9 years, I just want to give you guys the credit that you deserve. You've done a phenomenal job of leading this team vocally through their actions, both on and off the field. They've been really good. So I think they've kind of led the charge. I think it's easy sometimes when the leader of an organization or your position coach or whatever holds a guy accountable or makes a decision, and maybe some people in the locker room don't agree with it. But when you have alignment with the captains and they're reinforcing the message and also, calling those things out, which happen, I just think we're in a good place. Positivity spreads, and so can negativity, and you better be aware and working, working towards the positivity as much as you can, and having an awareness of any negativity that may be going on. And as we've talked about before, the 125 guys on the team and a decent sized staff, you're going to have some of that.
Donnie Collins, Scranton Times Tribune, then Corey Geiger.
Happy Thanksgiving, James.
You too, Donnie. Okay, Donnie, here we go. String beans or collard greens?
I like both, but I'd probably go collard greens.
Wow, I did not expect that. Nice.
With bacon.
Say that again?
With bacon.
Wow.
Bacon in there. It's the only thing I eat bacon with.
Yeah, I prefer it with fat back, but similar. Yep.
And
This is
a little
interesting.
disappointed to hear you guys kind of diss pumpkin pie earlier.
I'm really down on pumpkin pie.
Really?
I'm
Really?
really down on it. So let's not get into this because obviously it's a hot topic between the two of us.
Yeah, it is. But we'll address it another time. But I wanted to ask you about one of the seniors who doesn't get a lot of attention, Chris Stoll. How important has his consistency been for you guys in a position where that's really the only requirement? And is there a reason he's been one of the game captains every week other than just availability?
So externally, maybe he doesn't get talked about a lot. Internally, in our building, we talk about him all the time. He addresses the team a lot. We bring up his role. He is Mr. Consistent and has been that way his entire career. He's gotten better every single year. Not only in his consistency as a snapper, but also as a blocker and his ability to get down the field and make tackles. He's been awesome. Been a great student as well. Been a great spokesperson. And then, typically for me, when you talk about, the coin toss captains, I'm trying to kind of take that off some of those guys' plates. So if you can have a specialist do it like him, specifically someone who's not on offense, defense, or the kickoff team, then those guys can be focused and getting ready for that while he's out there, doing it. And then the other thing is, I prefer to have the same guy speaking every week. I know it sounds crazy, but there's been bad mistakes that have been made in the past where somebody defers and then, they choose to kick it and the officials try to talk you out of it. No, they deferred, you sure you want to kick it? Yeah, I want to kick it. So just kind of how, we go through that each week, what our philosophy is, what we're choosing, why. Just having the same guy do it every single week, I think there's a ton of value in it. And that really wasn't necessarily the plan. It just kind of has evolved like that. And it just makes sense to me to take that off of some other people's plates where they're trying to get ready. They're warming up for offense or warming up for defense or getting some kicks in or whatever it may be. So he's done a great job. And, I'm really glad and proud that he chose Penn State a long time ago, came in here and earned a scholarship and did everything the right way. So I think he's got a really bright future. I think he's going to have a chance to continue playing. But I also know he's done all the right things to prepare himself for when football comes to an end. He'll be ready for that too.
Corey Geiger, DK Pittsburgh Sports, then Johnny McGonigal.
Hi, James. I would like to ask you about Sean Clifford and if there's a chance he could remain at Penn State, maybe as an assistant coach at some point. Would you see that maybe in his future?
Cranberry sauce or stuffing?
Stuffing. I eat stovetop stuffing, not that bird stuffing. My wife gets mad at me.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I can't eat the bird stuff.
Okay. So the question was about Sean staying on as a.
At some point, could he be a coach for you? What would his value be as an assistant coach at some point?
Yeah, I just don't think he has interest in that. I think Sean loves football, but I think Sean is an entrepreneur and Sean is a businessman and has already started those things in the next chapter of his life, and he's prepared for when football comes to an end to kind of do those things full time. He's not one of the guys. There's guys that I know have an interest in coaching. One of the things that's somewhat sad is there's a little bit less of that now. I think a lot of the players see the hours that the coaches work. So some guys, want to stay involved with football. I think that's why you hear a lot more of them want to be, commentators and things like that because they want to stay involved in the game, but not the hours of coaching. But there's a handful of guys that I do know want to coach one day, and that's never been a conversation with Sean. I could see him maybe doing some quarterback training on the side as maybe one of his you know, kind of one of his businesses, but I see him more as a businessman.